And it's day one. You walking in there on the first day, man. You in there, man. But you feel something. It's right in here, man. And it's screaming. And it's yelling. And it's saying, release me. And it's saying, I am the number one determinant of the success or failure of my students. Hey, y'all, when you get back, kick some butt, and I'll see you in the winner's circle celebrating your victory. Let's go! Let's go! Let's go! Let's go! Let's go! Let's go! You got this! You got this! You got this! Thank you, everybody.
And we are live. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to week 196 of the AP and New Principals Academy. Let me see who we got checking in this morning. Let's see where we at. Oh, man, a lot of y'all got on here before I got on. We got Mona Abamolak on here. Good morning to you. And she says good morning to my queen, Mrs. Kafele. We got Sharon Wright checking in, Robin W., Rodney Richardson, Grace Castaneda, Arlette Johnson, Marsha Poe. I'm doing it quick just so I can get as many names in as I can, y'all. Constance Sherrod, Casey Washington, Tashika High. I know what Tashika High. Tashika Truesdale. We got Principal Otis Kitchen II, Jacqueline Harriet, Dr. Sheikah Houston just took care of business, along with Dr. Tammy Taylor, Create and Educate, 10:30 every Saturday morning, Facebook Live, part of the Fantastic Four. Lysandra Brackens is in the building, John Herricks, Dr. Rella Hicks, Natasha Torres, the Queen. Sometimes I don't see her name, man. The Queen is in the building. The wife, Kimberly Broughton Kafele, the Queen of the Castle. Takesha High, Kenya Williams, Principal Dot McKeever Jeter in the building. September, Devon Vance Daniels, Jasmine Harris, all the way out there in Cali. Man, I've been out there. Oh, man, what a week. We'll talk about it a little bit, man. What a great week. Just a lot of flying, man. I feel like a bird. Dr. Angie Barfield is in the building. Man, we're gonna talk about you in a give me a couple minutes, Dr. Barfield. Dr. Demetrius Scott's in the building. Melissa Jones Chunu, keep your prayers up for Melissa Jones Chunu. She's coming along, but keep your prayers up, way up. That's family there, right? So anytime family is in need of prayer, we make sure that we come through, y'all. We got Alan Q. Coart in the building. Rashard Davis. I got that one already. Stephanie Bishop. Milken. You be in that next wave, Stephanie. Yeah, call. You know that call is coming, man. That next wave, you know. We got Great Falls Elementary School. I think that's Dr. Tammy Taylor, right? We got where we got Miss OJ in the building. MPA Jaguar. That's Josh Tovar every Sunday night, 7 o'clock with Dean Packard, Facebook Live, Unlock the Middle, and then Sean Hurt starts us off every Saturday morning at 10 o'clock, Facebook Live. Char Mills, where we at? Lucretia Lewis, Kai Lee. She said, EO proud. There you go. I'm EO proud too, man. I've been living in Jersey City for 34 years, but I'm EO, East Orange. I wear it on my sleeve. Jay Harris is in the building. Good morning to you. I think that's my former student, Jay Harris. Oh man, we got North Tech in the building. Good to see you, sir. Why don't you hit me up sometime, man, so we could catch up, man. Hit me up, send me an inbox so we could catch up, man. That's I talk to a lot of y'all that way, so hit me up at some point. Angel McHale is in the building. Calvin Leake, Jamia Ray. Man, I've been flying so much. I'm not seeing the way I normally see, man. Too much fly. I'm like squinting to see y'all's names. Usually I'm just sitting here. I can see them. Yeah, man. My body is beat down. Golf RWT. Charlena Hottie. It's 11:01. Let me get going. Edwin Garcia, Jersey homie in the building. Let me see if there's any of the local homies that I need to shout out real quick. I see you, Sean Hurt. So 10 o'clock every Saturday morning. Great job today, as always. Where we at? Jay Harris. I'm getting ready to close it down, y'all. Let me see any of the local homies here. I don't see anybody locally, but everybody doesn't put themselves on the screen. I'm going to close out with Yolanda McKinney, though, because she's been rocking since day one. Day one. Right? That's fam right there. I'm gonna leave it right there, y'all. Let me open it up and let me say formally to everybody now. Good morning. Greetings. Welcome to week 196 of the AP and New Principals Academy. And let me ask you two questions. Number one, how you feeling? And number two, how was the week? Right? I'm not gonna get all into them, but I'm just asking, how you feeling? How you feeling? Right? Feel free to put it right in the chat because I see them all. Right? How you feel? And if you're not feeling where you need to feel, I understand. I'm not there. I mean, emotionally, I am there. But physically, man, whoo, when I get off of here today, I'm gonna point in the direction. That's where my seat is. I'll be sitting there until I say about midnight. That's where I'm gonna be. If you need me, I'm sitting right there. I ain't going nowhere. I'm wearing what I'm wearing now. The only thing that's going to change, I'm taking this hat off and this jersey off, but the shirt underneath, this it today. This is it. My day is done. This is it. Right there. What time is it right now? 11:03 Eastern time. That's my spot till midnight. That's it. I ain't doing nothing. Wife can't even think about me going somewhere. Not today. We ain't doing no restaurant today, man. Right there. Right. Sometimes you got to take it way down. Right. Way down. But on the other hand, how was the week, man? How's y'all's week, man? Like, get your mirror up, right? In the bar, they'll say, raise your glasses up, right? Get your mirrors up, man. But flip it, turn it towards yourself. How was the week? And what do you need to do differently this week coming up versus the week you just had? That matters, right? So let me get into these announcements. First, I forgot. I forgot to tell you how I feel. Oh, I can't. I mean, I'm good emotionally. I'm good mentally. Right, I'm just a little tired, but I guess since my body's tired, I forgot to let you know how I feel. So I'm gonna let you know right now. Put your ear to your speaker because I'm getting ready to let you know do y'all feel that I'm on? Y'all feel that fire? Woo! That's how I'm feeling. Oh, look at my son, man. He's sitting there. He said, Dad be bugging on Saturday mornings. I know. I'm on fire, y'all, man. I'm on fire, man. That's how I'm feeling, man. Yeah, I see them fire emojis. Give me them fire emojis, man. Let me know how you feel, man. If you on fire, give me that fire. I see it coming. I see it. I see it. I see it. Some of y'all gave me like a lot of flames, man. I see it. Jacqueline Carter, I see you, man. I see all them flames you put up there. Let me go to these announcements, man, because I got the big time guest on today, man. I got the senior vice president of the Milken Educator Award, man. So let me not waste no time. Hey, shout out to Crestwood Elementary School in Las Vegas. I was out there with them on Monday, man. And Principal Dr. Karen Kipp, all the staff had a copy. Let me get it, man. All the staff were given as a gift, closing the attitude gap. Man, when I walked in there, I felt blessed. They're doing a book study on closing the attitude gap. Notice I don't say closing the achievement gap. I say closing the attitude gap. I ain't gonna get into all to that because I'll probably do a lecture if I said another word on this. So let me put the book down. right? So thank you to Crestwood. If any of you are on here, shout out to you. And if Dr. Karen Kipp is on, shout out to you and your team. Had a great day with y'all, man. Let's do it again at some point. Shout out to Fresno County School Equity Conference, man. Woo! I brought that heat, man. I'm gonna tell y'all something. I brought that heat. And Dr. Angie Barfield, who's one of my Black Educators Rock fam, you know, she's out there doing her thing. She was instrumental in bringing the brother from Jersey City, New Jersey, via East Orange in the building. So we man, I had a great time. I was the closing keynote, man, and I brought that heat, man. That's what I do. That's what I do. That was and then yesterday, man, I was in Houston. Leadership Partners, man, full day. It was a whole lot of AP and New Principals Academy Houston fam out there too, man. And we had a great day, man. I had to do a red eye from Fresno to San Francisco to Houston. So I didn't have the luxury of going to a hotel to go to sleep, right? That didn't happen. It was going to the hotel, taking a quick shower, ironing the clothes for a change of clothes, and then going downstairs and put a quick bite of breakfast in me and go on to the place. But I did something I don't normally do. I drank 2 cups of coffee, because I'm not a coffee guy, but except for emergencies. And when you do a red eye, that's an emergency. Did them 2 cups of coffee. I felt like I slept 10 hours, man. I was so wired up. I was so on fire, right? So I felt really good, man. So shout out to Leadership Partners under the leadership of my man, Lawrence Cone. That's my guy. He brings me out there every year, man. Every year. Shout out to them. Hey, y'all, welcome to the First Timers. And if this is your first time and you're here because of certain guests, because sometimes, you know, I see all the new names when it's a certain guest that they know. But don't just come for the guests you know. I got 195 of these sitting on the AP and New Principals Academy YouTube channel. So go to that channel, binge watch them, man. Subscribe. I got to say that word a few times. Subscribe to the channel. That's important, right? We got 20,100 subscribers now. Man, that's a blessing for me. Who am I ain't nobody. 20,000 people say we want to be down with you. Man, I appreciate that. Yep, immensely. I might add, immensely. So hit the subscribe button, man. I want to take it to 25,000, right? So hit that button. And by the way, while you're there, you know, I started something new, man. YouTube Shorts, man. I'm getting addicted to them things, man. 60-second little video. I made the newest one I made last week. I made one. I didn't like it, man. I didn't notice my shirt wasn't fitting right, and had it wrinkled up over here and all this. So I deleted it and made another one. And it's I don't even remember the name of it, but check it out. Right? It's to the extent of saying, I just can't remember the title verbatim, but it's saying that to lead a school of these 2 very different, vastly different populations of adults and children, I'm deeming to be incredible, right? Because no one else does that. You know, your organization of adults, you lead adults. But here you're leading adults and children, but here's the key word, and I put this in the title, simultaneously. Imagine you leading babies or older children or middle-aged children or older elementary or middle school children or high school children, but you're leading adults at the same time. That's incredible. That takes a special individual. So that's what the theme of the video is 60 seconds. So just go to my same YouTube channel, go to the shorts, and it's the most recent one. Check it out. 60 seconds. I'm doing them every Wednesday or Thursday or Tuesday or maybe both, whatever it is. It's called Midweek Fire. So me just playing my role and giving the leadership world out there a little extra dose of fire every week. They're not meant to be informative. I ain't dropping no knowledge and dropping no science. That's not what the intent of this is. This is to give you some fire to get through these very difficult, challenging, sometimes overwhelming weeks. So make sure you subscribe to the channel, tune in. And then the previous ones are there too. So I've done like about maybe 8, something like that. Check them all out. All right. Be sure to like and follow the AP and New Principals Academy Facebook page. We almost at 10,000, man. Get on there. Hit that follow button. Right. The books. Woo! I'm getting ready to get to my guests, y'all. Y'all, I don't know what's happening. Like, I see my books on Amazon all the time. I'm a data guy. I'm a numbers guy. That's what I do. I study all my numbers. I know how many people go to my website. I know how many people are buying the books off of Amazon. I know how many people are watching the YouTube videos. I know how many people are on the Facebook page. I'm a numbers guy. There are many people who are not numbers people, and they don't understand why their business is not doing what it should be doing because they don't know their numbers and making number-driven decisions. And that's in that parallels education. See, as an educator, as a principal, and as a teacher, I was a numbers guy. I'm not making emotional decisions all the time. Certain decisions you just have to make, but I'm also making decisions based on the numbers. So if the numbers on Amazon are saying my book's not selling, then I know I got to make some adjustments. So this thing here, Assistant Principal 50, right now in real time, this thing is sitting at number 3 on the Amazon Education Administration ranking, top 100. I find that amazing. I wrote this in 2019. It was published in 2020. And now it just keeps staying in that top 10. But that's because of y'all. So keep on supporting. I don't get much, and I'm gonna keep it real. I'm an author. Authors don't make money. The publisher makes the money. We get pennies. We get crumbs. Not a knock against the publishers. That's just what the business is. We don't make, so don't think, oh man, Kafele making money, man, off them books. Oh my God. No, Kafele ain't making nothing. Every 6 months, we get a little check that might get me a tank of gas, right? The publisher makes the money. But what allows me to do is get my information out to the public. And obviously, I get speaking engagements out of it, right? Because people that don't know I exist, is, oh, that book, maybe that guy speaks. Oh, he does speak. He's been doing it for a long time. And I didn't even know he was born, right? So number 3 right now, take it to number 1. Let's go. This here right now, real time, number 8. This book is like, it's been slow since I wrote it. I wrote it in 18, came out in 19. It's been the slowest moving book of every book that I've written. And just for some reason right now, this thing is blazing. I don't know what it is, but it's y'all. Keep it coming. The Aspiring Principal 50, which includes the interview techniques, the Assistant Principal Identity, the newest one. This is picking up because this started slow, man. This came out in 2023, but it's in that top 30 right now on Amazon. All 3 of these books. This book is in the Amazon top 30. Is My School a Better School Because I Lead It? This book is in the Amazon top 30. I ain't say top 100. I said top 30. The Equity and Social Justice Education 50. Get yourself a copy. This one is in and out of the top 30, the Principal 50. So if you don't have it, get yourself a copy. But y'all, I appreciate y'all for blessing me, blessing the channel, blessing the education industry by not seeing it, as we say in the church, seeing it not robbery, to add my material to your repertoire. Much appreciated. I'm almost done, y'all. The School Leadership Institute with Principal Kafele, July 9 and 10 in Houston, Texas. Y'all got to be in the building. So in other words, we taking the AP and New Principals Academy on the road, as I do every summer, every July 9 and 10, 2 big days, all day long, right? All day long, right? So go to principalkafele.com, scroll down to Principal Kafele announcements, and then click the link to register. And then I'll see you in Houston, July 9 and 10. I'll be promoting this every day until we get there, right? So you're going to hear this every Saturday morning, right? But register, and I see you, principalkafele.com. And do know, I'm still playing with it in my head. How do I get, and I got to talk to my family on this, how my professional learning family of Sheikah Houston, Tammy Taylor, Sean Hurt, Josh Tovar, Dean Packard, because I want to bring us, the Fantastic Four, on the road as well, right? So I'm formulating that in my mind. We'll come together, talk about it. We're gonna make that happen too. All right, yo, I got guests, man, but let me do my monologue real quick. Hit the share button, retweet button, repost button, tag somebody, tag all them Facebook leadership groups, tag a colleague that may not be on right now. Let them know we here. I got the big time Milken educators coming on with me, but I got to give you my monologue real quick, man. This is my time. Monologue. Being a student of your craft. Once again, being a student of your craft. I'm going to keep this short. And here's what I'm saying to you. When I was in the classroom as a teacher, I had a life outside of teaching. But when I walked into room 333, that was my space. And that was where I performed my magic, because this thing called teaching, this thing called pedagogy was my craft. But not only was I striving to perfect the craft, but I was also striving to be a student of the craft. And I was very particular with who I exposed myself to. I'm not just reading any old thing. I'm reading the people who are writing about, who are sharing research and studies pertaining to students that look like the ones that were sitting in my classroom. Why do I need to read generic material that's not applicable to the children that are walking into my school, who are walking into my classroom? So you got to be particular about what you read. Just reading about children, well, contrary to popular belief, all children are not the same. It's not about the mindset, children are children. No, some of them children are Black. Some of them children are Latino. Some of them children are various parts of Asian, right? Some of them children are Native American. Some of them children are born in poverty. Some of them children are born in privilege and wealth. Some of them children are born with very big challenges in their lives, right? Other children are not, right? And I can go on, but I monopolized the time. So I'm saying that to say, you got to find the material that speaks to the children that attend your school. Not some generic studies, not some generic research, not some generic theories, not some generic thoughts. You need specific information. So I was a student of my craft, in addition to being one who was striving to be great at what I did. But then as a principal, same thinking, man. It did not shift. Now as a speaker, of course, I'm looking at it through a different lens. This is a speaker lens. This is an entrepreneurial lens. This is an educator lens, etc. Well, you know something? I am a student of this speaking industry. I know stuff that other people might not know because I'm looking at it a little bit harder. I'm looking at stuff in this business that ain't got nothing to do with me because I'm a student of the industry and thereby a student of my craft. I'm saying to you, hear me, somebody, that I'm going to my guests, you've got to be a student of your craft, not just a leader of your school. Not just one of the leaders of your school. You've got to be a student first. And you've got to be a good student. You've got to be a great student before you can be the teacher, before you can be the leader, before you can be the author. Know that, somebody. It matters. All right, y'all, look here. I got guests. So it's not a solo day today, right? It's about my guests. So let me bring up my guests and let me tell you who they are. This is the 4th day of my Milken January. I received the Milken Educator Award December 1st, 2009 as the principal at Newark Tech High School. And I met a whole lot of Milken folks, man. There are 3,000 of them now. And we're going to get into what that is, but there's a hierarchy in terms of the structure of the organization. And Dr. Jane Foley is the senior vice president of the Milken Educator Award. And then I got 2 local Milken homies, Dr. Tonya Breland and Dr. Kim Moreno. So I'm gonna bring everybody up now and let's sit back, take some good notes, and let's enjoy this conversation on leadership, effectiveness, non-negotiables. Y'all.
Hello.
Greetings. Great to see ya. I know I went a little not playing, but that's all right. Hey, folks, let me tell y'all who's here. You know, if you've been tuning in all month, then you know that I've been bringing solely Milken educators, and I got the Milken senior, the Milken Educator Award senior vice president in the building, right? That's like an honor. You know what I mean? Next I got to call Lowell himself, Lowell Milken, and get him on here, right? Awesome. But yeah, I got the senior vice president. I was going to, before I even read your bios, Jane, Dr. Foley, give us just the brief synopsis. I've been doing it every week, but it's coming from me, an awardee, as opposed to the senior vice president. Just give us the brief synopsis, because we got a lot to cover. What is the Milken Educator Award?
All right, the Milken, thanks for asking that question. The Milken Educator Award started when Lola and Mike Milken established the foundation. They were so influenced by their successful teachers and their family that they wanted to do something to make sure that more students had access to great teachers. So since 1987, they have been honoring what we believe represent the top 1% of the profession. They are teachers, principals, and specialists. It started in California with 12 educators. Now we have almost 3,000 all over the country, in every state, every setting that you can imagine. I like to say that Milken educators are the face of America, and they represent all the good things that are happening in school. And what we intend to do is to shine a spotlight on the good news, the excellence, the talent, because we want to keep the talent in the profession. We want everyone to know about the good news, and we want to inspire young people to go into teaching.
I love it. I love it. And we have these 14 karat gold pins that we wear where we at. And there we go. There we go. And some of y'all, if you've been rocking with me the whole time, you know I forgot to put mine on week 1. But we here now. We here. Let me, folks, I wanna read the bios of my guests. And they're a little long, but I decided that I wanted to put them all on record. So just bear with me. Dr. Foley sent it to me in bullet points, so it's going to be a quick read. Born in Chicago, product of Chicago Public Schools. First generation to college, BA, MS, PhD from Purdue University. 17 years as a teacher in Indiana, both secondary and elementary. 7 years as elementary principal in Northwest Indiana, first at a small rural district, and then selected to open the new high-tech Flint Lake Elementary, which included redistricting of students from 7 schools, hiring entire staff, working with construction crews, and launching new school year in district where she had been a teacher for 16 years. That's amazing. Received the Milken Educator Award in 1994. So not only the senior vice president, but also a recipient of the Milken Educator Award. When she was an elementary principal at Flint Lake at the time. As principal, Flint Lake attained state and national recognition in the areas of school restructuring, professional development, technology integration, and student achievement. She moved to California in 1998 to work at the nonprofit Milken Family Foundation in Santa Monica, California. Her position is Senior Vice President, Milken Educator Awards, lead selection and surprise notifications of Milken educators, work with state agencies on events related to awards, connects with hundreds of Milken educators in the network. Since 1998, traveled over 1.5 million miles, visited every single state, addressed over 300,000 students in all school assemblies, met with state and national government and educational leaders, visited hundreds of schools, observed over 1,000 classrooms, presented at hundreds of state and national conferences, and most importantly, met and learned from the top talent in education. Board member of Teachers of Promise Foundation, led by Milken educator Wade Whitehead, which provides guidance for annual Teachers of Promise Institute, an educator-led celebration and professional development event for talented pre-service education students in the universities across Virginia. And I'm so proud that Wade invites me to keynote that for consecutive years, and that's an honor. Professional points of pride are leadership in Flint Lake Elementary, and the privilege of representing the Milken Family Foundation. Next, we go to Dr. Tonya Breland. Dr. Tonya Breland y'all bear with me, man. Her accomplishments are vast, right? Dr. Tonya Breland has a passion and commitment to increasing access and opportunities for those who have been historically marginalized, particularly Black and Brown students, and has dedicated her life's work to ensuring equity in education and other sectors. Through her research, she birthed a framework for sustainable equity planning in which she helps organizations identify areas where they are equitable have inadequate capacity or are vulnerable to inequities. Her work is also transferable across organizational sectors. A highly respected educational leader, equity leader, and national award-winning Milken educator, Dr. Breland has a proven track record of leading high-quality initiatives, programming, and professional learning experiences for educational leaders and professionals to collaborate, learn, and exchange ideas using the lens of equity. She has vast experience leading equity initiatives at the New Jersey Department of Education, where she served as Director of Professional Learning and Deputy Assistant Commissioner. Dr. Breland is experienced in implementing and sharing research-based strategies and resources for leaders and educators to ensure practices, policies, and systems are equitable and culturally responsive. Her experience has also afforded her opportunities to research systems for equity and cultural responsiveness. In her career, she was instrumental in the turnaround efforts of underperforming schools by addressing inequities and demonstrates a keen ability to establish vision and direction, leading and engaging diverse groups of stakeholders and partnerships. She has spearheaded broad, rigorous, innovative academic programming to improve teaching and promote student learning in academic settings. We're getting there, y'all. In her career, Dr. Breland has served as a principal, curriculum supervisor, and has been a sought-after trainer, coach, consultant, speaker to school districts, individuals, and other organizations. She has also taught in the New Jersey Excel program, preparing professionals for licensure to become school district administrators. She's currently working as the founder, CEO of Teach Educators and Scholars Organization. Let's do that again. Teach Educators and Scholars Organization, TESO Consulting Group, a consulting firm that specializes in diversity, equity, and inclusion and belonging, with a mission to ensure all individuals, especially those who have been historically marginalized, have access to equitable, socially just, culturally responsive learning and working experiences. Dr. Breland is currently active on the New Jersey School Boards Association, Equity Council, ESCOLTA, School Research and Design Board of Directors, and New Jersey Tutoring Corp Board of Directors, Learning Forward, New Jersey Board, Rowan University Foundation Board, and the, I don't know if I pronounced this right,
Eusebia.
Eusebia, man, I'm way off. Board of Directors. She is also the president of the National Council of 100 Black Women, Central New Jersey chapter. She authored the book, Fight to Make It Happen, and Michaela Mitchell Moves Away. Did I get that name right?
You did.
She is passionate about empowering and inspiring people to live their dreams and fulfill their purpose. And lastly, Tonya is a graduate of Howard University, Nova Southern University, Southeastern University, and New York University, where she received her doctorate of education in leadership and innovation. Woo! That's a lot, man. That's a lot. But then here comes Dr. Kimberly Moreno. We've got another long one, so y'all hang in there with me. Hey, fam out there, hang in there with me. I got to make sure that y'all hear this, because I want somebody. I happen to know that there's a lot of people inspired by these bios. Well, how do I know that? Because they write me inboxes and tell me, right? Mm-hmm. So they tell me, keep on reading them bios, Kafele. Dr. Kimberly Moreno began her teaching career in 2009 as an alternate route teacher for Union City Board of Education. In 2012, when the district decided to establish a career and technical education program for the health sciences with Rutgers University, Kimberly was selected to develop the program, giving students the opportunity to earn industry-valued credentials and college credits and pursue careers in healthcare. In 2013, she became the advisor of HOSA, an international career and technical student organization focusing on health-related careers. She also served as a coordinator of Project SEED, a project sponsored by the American Chemical Society, which gives students the opportunity to do state-of-the-art research under the supervision of a scientist. Kimberly has facilitated and presented at various New Jersey Department of Education initiatives, including the State Board of Education meeting June 16, the Building Summer Institute August 16. Kimberly has served at the New Jersey Department of Education as a health science career cluster lead through the Intergovernmental Loan Program from September 2017 to June 2018. Most recently, Kimberly was part of the founding administrative team of the Passaic Academic Passaic Academy for Science and Engineering as an assistant principal. Her administrative responsibilities included overseeing the 5 career and technical education pathways, dual enrollment, computer science, physical education, and science departments. We're almost there, y'all. In 2006, Kimberly Moreno graduated from the Honors in Health Careers program at Montclair State University, where she received her Bachelor of Science in Biology. She continued her education and received her Master of Education in Special Education in 2011 from Grand Canyon University. Committed to professional development, she continued her studies at William Patterson University, where she received her English as a second language certificate and her supervision certificate. In 2015, Kimberly was the New Jersey recipient of the National Milken Educator Award, the Oscars of teaching. And in 2017, January, she was inducted into the Kappa Delta Pi, an international society for educators. She successfully defended her dissertation for her doctoral degree in educational leadership at the College of St. Elizabeth and graduated in May 2018. Along with her dissertation focusing on STEM educators, she has also contributed to an article published in the New York Academy of Public Education's professional journal entitled Urban Education Disrupted: Observations from a Successful School District in the Flat World. She is contributing author for Digital Learning in High Need Schools, a critical approach to technology access and equity in pre-K-12. Her chapter is entitled Feedback, Evaluation, and Grading, the Unique Considerations Distance. Let's try that again. The unique considerations distance learning possess to the evaluation cycle and the task of ensuring equitable practices, and focuses on working toward equitable grading systems in the classroom. And finally, in July 2022, she was hired as assistant principal at Wayne Valley High School. She oversees science, technology, and family consumer sciences. Is extremely excited and honored to be working in the community where she lives. That's a good thing. You know, Kim, it was an honor for me to be in East Orange for as long as I was as a teacher and then a principal, because that's the city that produced me. And so going back there and spending those years, I guess those close to, I don't know, 12 or so, whatever it was, it was good being home, right? So let's jump into it, folks. We got a lot to cover. I got some questions I want to ask you before we get to the meat of the conversation. And I'm going to start with you, Dr. Foley. The principalship, it's ever evolving. And as I kind of alluded to in my monologue, I think about what it used to be, and even before I was a principal, and what it is now. And now, you know, one of the things that stands out versus years ago is this emphasis on instructional leadership and instructional coaching. My question to you, Jane, is there anything that stands out for you that principals did back in your day that you were responsible for, but thinking about today, is there anything that may be obsolete now, or things that folks are doing today that wasn't even on the radar years ago?
Yeah, thank you, Baruti. Nothing that we would have learned before would be obsolete. When I had aspirations to be a principal, they were basically the manager of the building. You know, they did the schedule, they did the budget. Luckily, I went at a time when it was turning into instructional leadership. And so my whole preparation through my doctoral program was all about how to be an instructional leader, which was so exciting because I was on that cusp of reading everything about instructional leadership. I think what I see now for principals is the challenges are great in terms of making sure that you're meeting the needs of all your community and all your students. And possibly in the earlier days, schools would have been a little bit more segregated, a little bit more homogeneous, a little bit more homogenous, which that's basically the same thing. And now this beauty of our country is the diversity, and that principals have this opportunity to have students of all backgrounds in their schools, to learn how to be that leader of everyone in the community, that these are our students, and what are we going to do now to make sure we move all of them forward?
Love it. Tonya, Dr. Breland, I'm always, I don't know why. I guess it's because of the nature of the work that I do, that I'm always flashing back to my years as a child, my years as a teacher, particularly my years as a principal. And I know definitively that I'm not the person I was in the classroom. I know that. And it's not so much the position now in terms of the question I have for you, it's my thinking. I don't think identically as I did as a teacher. I've evolved. I don't necessarily think the way I did as a principal. I've evolved. Are some of those ways still with me? Absolutely, right? But I like to think I've grown in my thinking. My question to you, when you think about, particularly when you received the Milken Award versus where you are now, are there any areas where your thinking has evolved relative to the work versus where you were back in those days when you received the Milken Award?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot has changed. When I think back to when I won the Milken, I was transitioning into administration. So I was a fourth grade teacher. I was, transitioning into being an instructional coach, and then into a vice principal role, and then a principal role. And I think when I was a classroom teacher, I just really thought about the kids in my classroom. Like I wanted to make the environment, welcoming for them. I wanted it to be rigorous. I wanted to be engaging. And I just really pretty much was only thinking about them and their future. I realized that there's so much more to think about as I've grown and evolved. When we think about, so as I moved into administration, I realized I need to think about like what's going on across the building. What's going on with all of our kids? How can we collaborate, from one classroom to another classroom? How can we support one another as educators? That was something that when I was making that transition, that was really big for me. So, when you're a classroom teacher, you don't really know what other teachers are doing. And when I started to transition, I realized that a lot of teachers were doing things very differently from what I was doing. And so one of the things that I was able to do as a vice principal prior to becoming vice principal was to actually spend some time helping other teachers see what other teachers were doing and supporting one another. And it was a non-threatening situation where they could volunteer to open up their classrooms to their peers. And it gave them an opportunity to see one another, to grab some great ideas and strategies. And it was also an opportunity to kind of showcase, good teaching.
Yeah.
So that was not something that had typically been done. Most teachers had no idea what other teachers were doing in the building, unless they were next door or maybe from a grade level meeting that would happen occasionally. But this was something that became a part of that particular school where I was. And so, transitioning into principalship, at that point now the responsibility is on my shoulders. So the vantage point is even broader, because now I'm not just looking at the students, I'm looking at the community. I'm looking at the connection with and the relationships that I have with parents. I'm thinking about the relationships that I have with the community around me, as well as with the students and the teachers. And that, I think, was very eye-opening for me in a lot of ways. One, it grew me. It grew me as an educator. It grew me as a leader. And it helped me to be able to have better and stronger and be more intentional about developing these strong relationships, because ultimately the culture and the climate that I wanted inside my building had to also be seen out, from those who were coming in.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember when I was hired as a principal, my superintendent said to me that previous to my being there, parents were not really welcome in that building. They didn't feel welcome. And he said the biggest thing he noticed, especially if I was not there, like if I was at a conference or somewhere else out of the district, and he would come over to check on the building, he noticed this really warm atmosphere, this warm feeling. Because it was really important to me. These relationships that we build with people is really important to the success of a school and the success of a classroom. And I didn't think like that as a student. I mean, as a teacher, but I started thinking like that as I evolved as a leader.
I love it. I love it. You got that head start in the classroom.
Mhm.
It's transition with you into your vice principalship and ultimately your principalship. Dr. Moreno, you know, Kim, this platform exists for one singular reason, and it was birthed right in the midst of the pandemic. I guess the start of it, the first Saturday in May of 2020. And the only reason I created this thing is because in my mind, and I'll take this to my grave, I said the assistant principalship is the most misunderstood and underutilized position in all of education. If I didn't have that notion, we're not on here tonight because I never created this, right? So my question to you, but first this thought. I know that there are places where principals, in terms of their utilization of assistant principals, get it right. I know that because I get to see that, right? But I also know in a whole lot of places they don't get it right, right? So the AP, the VP, whatever it is in that given district, that person is predictably a disciplinarian, right? Particularly in an urban and rural environment. This person works all the lunch periods. So they got 4 lunches. He or she's in there all 4 periods, right? So that's a huge chunk of the day. And I could go on and on. My question to you, Doc, why in your mind do we continue to get that position wrong across America?
Oh, that's a really good question. So one of the things I want to start with is I think about this, especially when I was interviewing for an assistant principal position. And I remember, I forget which week it was, but I remember one of your speeches in talking about how we can define our role as an assistant principal and how we can build that relationship of trust with our principal and then turn it into the expected career path that we wanted and move our own career trajectory in terms of developing programs, in terms of working with teachers. And I remember when you said that, it stuck in my head. So when I was first interviewing for leadership roles and I was hired as one of the founding members in Passaic, all of us were doing it together. We were a team of 3 women that put this school together, and we really trusted one another to the point where we were, personal with each other, and we went through tough times. We went through the pandemic together. So I think what happens with the role of the assistant principal is the person who's holding that role needs to take ownership and decide what they want that role to be. Okay, we can have our job descriptions, we can have our contracts and everything, but you as an instructional leader need to define what that role means to you and how you want to sit in that seat. And I think that's the most important part, that even though we're given a certain job description, start to extend those olive branches, be it with central office, be it with your principal, be it with middle school principals to build transition planning. But figure out where you see yourself in that role and work towards that. Redefine the role. If you don't like it, redefine it. And that's where I stand with that.
Redefine it. I love it. I love it. Let me ask a Milken question. Each of us, each of you are recipients, awardees, winners of this coveted, highly coveted Milken Award. There are some out there that don't know what the Milken Award is, and I meet them and we explain it, and I'm gonna get into that a little bit further. But for now, talk to us, and I'll start with you, Dr. Foley. Talk to us. Here it was. You received yours back in 1994. Here it is, 2023, and I have to imagine that award still means something to you. Talk to us about what the Milken Award, not what it meant back in 94, but what's earning that pin mean to Dr. Jane Foley in 2024. I know I said 23 before, but we're in 24.
So I have to talk about what it meant in 1994 because it means the same to me in 2024 in so many ways. So I was the principal, like you, when I got the award, and my superintendent said, the state superintendent's coming. We're going to have all these chairs and all these people are going to come. And I thought, yes, let's bring her in here. I want her to see our great school. So all of you will know during the notification, it's just like surreal, and then they say your name and there's no blood in your arms and you don't know what you're saying. You don't know what to say. I was the principal. So I just sort of started thanking them. This is, thank you for honoring our school. This is so amazing. We're doing all these things. I was so proud of the school. Day 2, I wake up and I thought, that was my name. That word came to me and it instantly instilled this responsibility. We were already doing a lot, but I thought, I got to get going here. I got to really do something to deserve this national recognition. So I'm telling you, that thought I had day 2, I have almost every day, is I need to do something every day, every month, every year to make a contribution in some way to education.
I love it. And for those that tuned in late, Dr. Jane Foley is the Senior Vice President of the Milken Educator Award. There are about 3,000 awardees over the years. So there's a lot of us out here across America, right? But she's a senior vice president, and I don't want that to get lost in this conversation. Dr. Breland, same question. Does it mean something different today versus when you received it?
I think I have to agree with Jane that it still means the same thing. So I won the award in 2006. And I'll never forget it. I think I cried every year for years, on the, not the anniversary, but every time a new awardee would win, just reliving the experience because it's surreal. Initially I was attacked by the imposter syndrome. They must have made a mistake. This couldn't, they didn't mean me. They must have meant somebody else. I mean, it makes no sense when you think about it after the fact, but it was just so surreal that I just thought they couldn't, they couldn't possibly mean me. So winning that award really validated me. When I was in the classroom, I did what I thought was best for kids to meet their needs. I wasn't thinking about who was watching me. I never thought about that. But I just always thought and believed that I need to do things well, and I need to do them as though every child sitting in that classroom was my own child that I gave birth to. And so my expectations were always high. I never dropped those expectations. I still have really high expectations for myself and for those who are around me, those that I mentor. It's just important that we strive for excellence. And I feel like as a Black woman, I really have to strive for excellence because I feel like there are eyes on me that may not have my best interest at heart. And so just as it was important then, it is still very important now that whatever I'm doing it with excellence, and I'm doing it for the betterment of others. And really, I see it as my opportunity to serve others. And so I do that now. It looks a little bit different, but it's what I thought, what I was doing back then, not thinking anything of it and not realizing that it was I wanted to make a difference, but I didn't realize how much of a difference I was making until somebody said, wow, you're really making a difference here. And that's what the Milken Award did for me. And that has become and has been my motto ever since, to continue to make a difference for those around me.
I love it. I love it. That's strong stuff. Dr. Moreno.
So I'm going to agree in the sense that the award still means the same. It's I'm actually in my office right now, and it's sitting right on my bookshelf across my desk. So I look at it every single day as a reminder. Yeah, as a reminder of my achievement. And I think about it in the way that, similar to what you were saying in your monologue, that we have to be a student of our craft. Well, I worked so hard to develop my teacher practice and to develop my strategies to support all of my students. I need to develop my leadership skills. I need to practice every single day, keeping my hand on the pulse of, what's going on in my school. And that is a constant reminder to me that I need to set not only the expectations of myself extremely high, but the expectation of my staff, because one day my kids are coming to this school. This is, I live and work in the same town, and it's super important to me to make sure that everyone is doing their best and really building capacity, because I think about it in that frame of mind. My kids will both come to this high school. So that's also a driving factor for me in maintaining, that high level of excellence. But I do agree 100% with you, Tonya, when you said imposter syndrome is real. And it takes a while for you to say, wait a minute, me, really? This one, girl from Patterson, what? Like, are you serious? And yes, they're serious. And I want to hold myself to that high standard and be worthy of that award every single day in my position.
For me, because I'm gonna jump in this conversation on this. It means something completely different for me, because for me, and let me grab this. I've done this on the platform on quite a few occasions, but this picture symbolizes what the award meant for me in real time. For me, I can reduce it to the word redemption, because as you all probably know, but many people that know my work definitely know, 5 years before the award in 2004, I was suspended. I made a decision, took a position that I'm going to fight for my students. I'm going to advocate for my students. And I knew that I would pay a price, and I did. I was transferred, I was suspended, and I was up for termination. But the media covered it, right? It was in the media big time. All the New York stations, television, the radio stations, Kiss FM, which was a big station here at the time, the newspaper headlines, all that kind of stuff. So ultimately, I left East Orange and went to Essex County, and I'm sitting in my auditorium. I know the work I'm doing down there, but I didn't see this coming. So when it came, this was all I could do, right? So fast forward. So what I'm doing in the picture, I'm thanking God. I'm praising God. That's what I'm doing. But I'm also,
I remember that.
Yeah. Because I had tears, because I know what that previous 5 years was. I went to the emergency room on 2 occasions. The board voted unanimously to bring me back the very next day because I hadn't done anything wrong. I just had the audacity to fight for my students. That's simply all it was. So, but now I don't look at it as redemption anymore. Like I've lived too much life to be stuck in that period, right? So now when I think of my Milken Award every day of my life, every day. There's no day goes by. And plus, it's in my bio, so I'm gonna hear it a lot too, right? But here's what I do think. When I hear someone reading the bio and they say he won the Milken Award in 2011, my mind says Oscars. The Oscar, I know it's of teaching, but I tweaked it. The Oscar of education, right? And in my mind, I just got this big, perhaps probably the biggest award that one could receive in education. So that's the way I see it now. But back then, my mind said, you have been redeemed. You are somebody. Somebody way on the other side of the country found you. And you received this award. And that's where I'm at, man. That's my story. Now let me holler at the fam out there before we jump into the heart of this. Fam, I know there's someone out here watching right now that doesn't know what this Milken Award is, like in terms of what it looks like. So I'm going to just take the liberty to show you my notification real quick, and then we'll jump into it. So check this out, fam.
There are lots of jobs that people used to do that are now done through technology. And so as the demands of the workforce change, we need to make sure that the education that all of you receive prepare you to be successful in that 21st century workforce.
When I was in public school, and it was a few years ago, I was very fortunate to have many outstanding teachers. They prepared me well to take advantage of life's opportunities. Now, in our nation today, we do so many things well, but one thing we don't do well enough, and that is support our talented teachers. We need to find new and creative ways to offer more powerful career opportunities for educators. We need to make the pay equal to the importance of the job. And we also need to do another thing, and that is we need to celebrate and recognize the good work that our talented teachers do. It gives me great pleasure to present the Milken National Educator Award to a truly exemplary educator, Tonya Kafele.
Principal Kafele cares about these young people, and I see all the hard work that he puts in and how he inspires the educators to do their job.
We have champions all over this city, from the North Ward to the South, East to West, and in the Central. And today we celebrate one of the heroes of our hometown. I give him my thanks. I give him my gratitude. I give him my love. One more thank you to our great principal.
I'm proud to be the principal of this school. It is a blessing to be principal. I'm blessed to receive this award. And again, Mr. Milken, I thank you from the bottom of my heart.
All right, fam.
Oh, it makes me teary-eyed.
I
with
know,
that.
You did it, Brody.
All the feels.
I guess I gave y'all better context, man. Redemption. You know, that was the day that I said to myself, I'm back. I'm back. You know, so real quick, we're gonna document, this is the 20th anniversary, 2024. So we're gonna document that whole ride on video. We have to do something real professional in the studio, have somebody interview me, and we're gonna put it out there. Anyway, let's go. Let's talk about some of this topic. We're talking about leadership effectiveness non-negotiables out there, fam. Leadership effectiveness non-negotiables. And I asked my guests, just send me some talking points, and let's talk about some things. So let me start with Dr. Foley, who we call Jane. I got to get you. I've never said Dr. Foley in my life, but I'm getting used to it. We'll interchange it. But anyway, you said, Doc. You said what is a meaningful life in the context of leadership? What are you saying to us?
Okay, so thanks. I asked Baruti if I could tell some stories today, and I hope that they have some meaning that might help you. So the non-negotiable about talking about this is to know your definition of a meaningful life in the context of your professional life. So you might have two definitions. You might have a personal and professional meaning for what's meaningful. I have been fortunate to have a lot of epiphanies that gave me clarity about what could be ahead. So like many of you, I always wanted to be a teacher. I remember the exact moment in high school, though, when I knew what kind of teacher I would be and why. When I was a teacher, I remember where I was when I knew I wanted to be a principal and why. And when I was a principal, I remember I was struck with this aspiration to lead in education in a role with national impact and why. So there was a lot of rejections along the way, but my epiphanies became realities over time. And what a joyful life it's been, because I loved being a teacher and a principal and my position at the foundation. There was a common strand each time which led me to a conclusion about a meaningful life. So I have always been obsessed with how to help others succeed. So that's driven me all these many decades that I've been many decades in education. You will decide what a meaningful life is for you. I know at the end of each day that I have a meaningful life when I have helped at least one person along their way. First, it was students, then it was students, staff, community. Now it's a national network of talented educators. You're in the right place if you can find a moment each day that connects you to what you describe as a meaningful life. On your roughest days, that moment helps you refocus, stay true to your purpose, and know that you're up to the privilege and this responsibility of your role. And if it wasn't there on that rough day, you just can't find it tomorrow. So why is this a non-negotiable for effective leadership? If you are not filled with joy, you will not have what is needed to pour everything into those around you. And if you don't have it figured out yet, be patient, pay attention, because it's around you and it's absolutely within you.
Yeah, I love it. You all feel free to jump in on each other's questions or statements, by the way. And any thoughts from anybody?
So as you were talking, the thing that stood out to me was when you were talking about your why. You know, like at each point of your journey, you knew your why. And I say that to people all the time, because if we don't know our why, when things get hard, when we get discouraged, when people are speaking against us, we'll want to quit. But it's our why that really kind of keeps us moving forward. And I think that as a leader, if you don't know what your why is now, and if you're just doing it because you like the title, then you're going to burn out really quickly. And you're going to get exhausted, and you're not going to have that joy piece of it. That why is the driver of, what makes me get up in the morning. It's knowing that I am going to be making a difference for somebody else in the work that I do every day. That's what drives me. And if I'm in a position somewhere where I cannot do that, where there are just too many barriers and it's not possible, then I don't want to be there. I don't want to be there. I'm going to go where I know that I can fulfill my why.
Woo. That's powerful. Let me jump in before Kim jumps in there. Because I want to piggyback on that. It's interesting that I would say in a lot of places that I speak, that's one of y'all, but it's not mine. Right? No? Or maybe it's me. A lot of places that I go, someone will come up to me at the end, and it's interesting. It's almost predictable, and they'll say, "Principal Kafele, I really didn't want to be here. I never heard of you. It's just another PD listening some presenter and blah blah blah." And then because this happened as recent as yesterday in Las Vegas, and then the teacher said, "I'm glad I came. I'm glad I was here, because you have changed me," right? And see, when you think about what you said about the why, Tonya, and then you go back to Jane in terms of the overall point, right? With what is a meaningful life in the context of leadership. Those responses, even though they're personal, this is not something someone's saying from the audience, but they're coming up to me. That's my fuel, which decided Tonya feeds my why. Right? Because just that one person saying to me, "You matter," that's what keeps me going, letting me know I was in the right place today. Because as you said, Tonya, there's some places I don't belong. I'm not welcome there. And I'm looking at the watch all day like, man, I can't wait to get out of here. I don't want to be here because I don't feel like I'm wanted here in this environment. A lot of it's driven by politics, but it is what it is. So yeah, I love it. Kim, jump on in.
Yeah, sure. I want to say a meaningful life to me is, I think I define it in terms of my why, right? And I want to define what a meaningful life looks like for me in leadership, because I think it's building relationships with my staff. And I feel that when someone feels that they can be seen and heard and understood for, you know, the personal stuff that we bring to work each and every day, I think that's meaningful, that they trust me with it as their leader, and that I can help support them in good days and in bad days. And I think that's what makes my role, to me, meaningful, because I'm able to then help drive change by building relationships with people each and every day, whether it's a student that comes in and says, oh, Dr. Moreno, I had a really bad time today in my Spanish class. Can you help me work through it? And I do that. So it is my why is building relationships to help people sustain and professionally grow and academically grow and spiritually grow, if that's, you know, so be it, with my students and everything. So it's making those connections and continuously building and helping people grow. That's what it means to me.
I love it. I love it. You know, I'm going to go to the second one. And Dr. Breland, the role of leadership toward creating educational equity in schools. What is that role?
So that's something that's really important, I think, for leaders. When I was a principal, I was in a school that was identified by the state as a school in need of improvement. That was how they were identified back then. And I knew, first of all, I knew that those children were no different than any other set of children in any school building, in any, you know, city, anywhere in the country. But I also knew that that equity was not in place for those kids. Mm-hmm. So meaning the belief systems around what those kids could do wasn't where it needed to be initially. It meant that as a leader, I had to help my staff understand that every child is not just capable of succeeding, but shall succeed, that it is our responsibility as a whole to look at every child as our own children and to bring them the best possible educational opportunities that they deserve to have. And so that means having rigor in the classroom and not watering down the curriculum because we feel that these kids can't handle the rigor and the responsibility of the work. It means engaging them and not doing rote activities because we need to drill and practice all day long, which really just, I think, kills children's spirits. It means that we need to have engagement around what they're doing. So I used to call it like butts in the air kind of engagement. So like when I would walk into the classroom, I would never want to see kids sitting in their seat like this. But the principal before me, that was what she wanted. When she walked in, she wanted kids sitting in their seats like this. When I walk into a classroom, even now, I want to see butts in the air. And I have an opportunity to walk through schools. I want to see kids with their butts in the air, grappling with concepts and engaging in dialogue and enjoying their learning experiences and feeling that they have access to the highest quality of instruction that is available to them. I don't see that everywhere I go. And so, you know, I work with schools, I work with leaders all the time. And in that work, you know, we're looking at, okay, you know, what is it that we're doing that is not allowing these students to excel? Are we creating an environment as leaders, first of all, where we are looking at our own biases? So do we know what it is that we feel and believe about these students that are in front of us? Because when we look at the statistics in New Jersey in particular, over 60% of the students in New Jersey, or just about 60%, are students of color. While we only have about 20%, actually a little bit less than that in the state of New Jersey, and roughly across the country, about 20% of teachers of color. So that means there's a cultural mismatch between the students and their teachers. And if we've got this cultural mismatch, then we as educators are responsible for closing that cultural gap. So what does that mean? That means as a leader, we've got to create opportunities for our teachers and our educators to learn. And that learning, that professional learning that needs to happen, needs to be collaborative. And it also needs to be something where each each educator is taking responsibility for their learning. And that, I think, is something that doesn't always happen, because there's some, educators that, want to kind of sit and get, if you will. And I can't stand the sit and gets because ultimately it does nothing for practice. There's no change in practice. But we need to be willing to be daring, if you will, to go against the grain, because now there are political movements that are trying to stop schools from being able to have, the kind of instruction that allows every child to see themselves in the curriculum, that allows children to feel like they belong in that classroom. And so it's incumbent upon us as leaders, and this is just the tip of the iceberg. There's a whole lot that I could talk about related to this, but this is just the tip of the iceberg in terms of what the educational leaders need to be doing. There's research. There's research. You need to be looking at the data in your building. Like, there's a whole lot that we need to do as leaders, but ultimately it's how we see our students first and foremost. Do we see them through an assets-based lens or through a deficit-based lens? Meaning, when they come into our building, do we feel like we've got to fix them, or do we feel like we need to look at what's in the system to ensure that they have the high quality instruction that they deserve to have?
You said some things, enjoying their learning experience, experiencing the highest possible quality of education. And then you said it in the context of this equity conversation. Mm-hmm. And I think I've said to you before, perhaps when you were on this platform before, mm-hmm. that there's many who asked me not to even mention the word equity, mm-hmm. right? Not to mention cultural responsiveness, culturally relevant pedagogy, etc. And then when I get into a dialogue with them, in most cases, the proverbial 99% of the time, it turns out they don't know what this is they're asking me not to talk about, right? Because when I ask, well, what do you mean by these things, right? And they don't know. So they're just, it's just, they heard, they've been directed not to allow whatever. But I figured out, and I'm going to ask you, I'm going to throw a question at you. I figured out how to talk about these things without mentioning these words. Like I can talk equity all day, mm-hmm. without saying the word equity. So my question to you, because you talked about the political movement to prevent these practices from being in schools. So as a consultant, how do you get around that so that you can still talk about the things or teach and coach the things that need to be taught and coached in a school?
So sometimes I'll use the term belonging. So if you think, so there was a time that I was in a building doing a training, conducting a training, and parents were concerned. Teachers were concerned about parents. And I said, do you know a parent that does not want their child to feel like they belong in a school? And none of them could, there's no parent out there that does not want their child to feel like they belong and that school is a place for them to grow and to thrive. There's no parent that I have ever encountered that feels that way. Mm-hmm. And so that's how I try to help teachers help parents understand what we're doing here is we're creating an environment where all students feel a sense of belonging, where all students feel like they can grow, where students see themselves, where students feel like that the instruction is relevant for them, and that they, when they leave that school, they know who they are and they are able to do something, in life that is meaningful to them. So that's a way that I get around it.
Yeah, no, I love it. I love it. I'm getting ready to go to Dr. Moreno, but before I do, having recorded this, there's a whole lot of things that I didn't do in my intro because I just forgot, even though it was sitting right in front of me. So the two things, I'm gonna do one and then I'll do another one later. Mm-hmm. Folks that don't know what I'm wearing, they're looking at this and like, what is he wearing a shirt that says clowns for? Like, what message? Right? I'm wearing Hank Aaron's jersey when he was in the Negro League. So he played for the Indianapolis Clowns, which was a team that started as the Miami Clowns, and it was an exhibition team, and they did a lot of comedy-oriented things. But then they decided of the new ownership that they would make it a regular Negro League team, and they got serious, but they kept the name, right? So they kept the brand when they moved to Indianapolis. So this is the jersey, not the actual jersey, but a replica of what Hank Aaron wore before he went to the Milwaukee Braves, which became the Milwaukee Brewers, and then his team became the Atlanta Braves. So that's that. Something else I'll give you a little bit later that I forgot in my intro. Let's go to Dr. Moreno, and you had said one of your areas of passion as it relates to our topic today, leadership effective negotiables, would be building capacity, right?
Yeah.
Talk to us about that.
So one of the things that I look at in my leadership role is building capacity of my staff. So the first time that I took a new assistant principal role, one of the things that I was at the very forefront of was developing relationships. Before I looked at the goal of, what I was directed to do in my role, I had to see my teachers as teachers. I had to see my students as students, and I had to get to know them. So I had to sit, watch, visit classrooms, do different activities, and learn who I'm serving, right? Because when I transitioned out of the classroom, similar to what Tonya was saying earlier, you think in that little silo. Well, now I have to think of the larger community. What are my parents like? What are my students like? What are my teachers like? So to build that capacity, I not only have to get to know who I'm serving, I also have to live and show what I expect of my staff. So that is by me developing a commitment to my own growth, right? So currently what I'm doing now is I'm looking for opportunities to better myself. So one of the buzz topics in education right now is AI, right? So one of the things that I do with my staff is I have impact, reflect, and I have a challenge each month. So when I came to Wayne Valley, I decided, what are we going to reflect upon? And I reflect upon something personal, something work related every single month. And then how are we going to commit to professional growth, right? So what is our challenge going to be for that month? Be it communication with families in a positive sense. So my challenge last month, it was the December-January challenge, was to commit to communicating in a positive light with all of your families. And one of the things that we actually discussed earlier today was the fact that it's easier to have conversations that are a little more difficult when you've already have positive conversations. So step by step, and I have some really, really amazing teachers here at Wayne Valley, but step by step, we're starting to understand what the teaching practice is, right? Because we have to be students of our craft. So shifting my mindset, and not only mine, but also my staff's mindset, that you are still a student. Even if you've been teaching for 20 years, there's still areas of growth. That is what I do to build capacity. I also, one of the cool things here is that we have something called a teacher leader. And my teacher leader is my right hand. And she helps me communicate with staff. I share different opportunities for her own, self-growth, because I want her to move into an administrator role. And I want to develop those skills. So having other individuals see that I'm helping staff grow continuously, it's really important to preach what you practice and practice what you preach. And I think I'm really committed in doing that. So speaking about AI, going back to that, the challenge was the new year, new me, new strategy. So we did that this month, and I'm challenging all of my teachers to find an AI tool. And there was an article that I shared with them to make their lives a little bit more effective, right, and efficient. Because I grew up in a time, and going back to, it's not the same time as when I was a kid and in school, I grew up with like Terminator, and robots are going to take over the world and they're going to harm us. And nowadays kids are growing up with like Wally and Happy Robots and things of that nature. So we need to demystify AI for ourselves and our own generation to be able to efficiently utilize the tasks that students have so easily accessible to them now, and understand that, and then bring that educational experience into the classroom in a very relevant and purposeful way. So that's what I mean by building capacity.
Do you have any resistors on
Oh,
staff?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And what I do with them is I inch by inch and slowly by slowly, I wear them down, Broody. I don't stop. If anyone knows me, I am that, the drop in the bucket. I am always communicating with my staff. Oh, did you try this? Oh, let me demonstrate how to do this for you. Let's try it together. Let me come to your class and do this together. I am that drop of water that is constant, that leaky faucet, but you're going to learn to love me and you're going to understand the method to my madness at the end of it.
Love it. Anybody else want to jump in? All right. Let's go. So Jane, you said how to gain your confidence and leave imposter syndrome behind.
Well, thank you, Kim. We already mentioned the imposter syndrome earlier. So the non-negotiable here is self-confidence. So another story to start with. I'm grateful for a father who believed in me. He was a absolute girl dad decades before that was ever even a term. So that was the gift that kept giving. He believed in me, so I believed in me. So he had passed by the time I even started my leadership path, but he's always in my head telling me, you can do anything, you can do anything. So as I relay my story, think about someone who believes in you. For me, it hasn't always been being a featured speaker for Principal Kafele and his academy. I've had lots of barriers. So some context, a great school. There's this odd restructuring they were doing where they were going to try and even out the class sizes. And so I was double promoted a couple of times. Always the youngest in any social or academic group for decades. Not now, obviously. So I was also in an era where there weren't many female school leaders. For you, you might be the youngest in the room, the only female, the only person of color. So when I had this idea to be a principal, I'm looking for advice. I met with my district superintendent. I'm sitting in his office all ready for advice. He said, Jane, you'll never be a principal. Everyone will always look at you and see you as a phys ed teacher. So that was not what I was expecting. Father in my head, you can do anything. So I started my principal program. A year later, I met with the superintendent again. What? Okay, glutton for punishment here. Because I was thinking about getting my doctorate at that point. Jane, you'll never get your doctorate. Too many hurdles. So, he was right about the hurdles, but I kept going. A professor in my doctoral program said, I was the first female that graduated that didn't get divorced. So many were dropping out. I did not get at least 2 principal positions where I applied. So I share these to illustrate that what other people say to you does not have to determine your next chapter. So now I'm in my first position. It keeps getting better here. Followed a beloved principal who'd been there for years. And there was this tradition of all the principals in the county, they got together for lunch every month. So I walk in, they're all men. They're all like 20 years older than me. I remember this lunch like it was yesterday. It was totally a take your daughter to lunch atmosphere. I'm sitting at the grown-up table finally here, but not part of the conversation. So a few years later, I get the position to open a new school, Flint Lake, in the district where that previous superintendent had said, you'll never be a principal. I'm in the principals meetings. All the principals were older. I was the only female. They knew me this time because I'd been a teacher. Now it was, don't worry, Jane, we're going to help you. Well, they did, but I had a few ideas of my own. So I have 2 insights as you face barriers for how you look, your age, your gender, your newness. First, most people will judge you for your actions. Not all, but most. The students, staff, parents in my first school in Flint Lake saw something in me as their leader, and our school communities just absolutely soared to success. Second, think of someone who believes in you. Principal Kafele, he believes in you. He would not be hosting this academy if he didn't. He's the ultimate support system in your corner. The people in this academy, they believe in you. I hope you have someone in your personal life too. Carry that with you. Let that message drown out your own doubts, your own imposter syndrome, and the doubts that others dare to express that don't understand the potential and leadership that lies within you. So why is self-confidence a non-negotiable? Talented teachers hunger for leadership. They want the one who sees this vision and then establish this environment of teamwork where there's success for everyone.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, I got a follow-up question for you, Jane. You are, and I hope you don't mind this question. You received the Milken Award. Ultimately, a few years later, you're at the Milken Family Foundation. But let's not lose sight of the fact that you're in a building with two very powerful men, Lowell Milken, Michael Milken. So we're talking about imposter syndrome. What was that like to leave your part of the country and to go to California and walk into a building with these two very powerful men?
Great question.
In the context of imposter syndrome.
So great question. Actually, remember, father in my head, you can do anything. You can do anything.
Yeah.
I always love the challenge. It's, to me, being a phys ed teacher, it's like playing tennis with the better player. It's going to up your game. So the only thing that irritates me is when I'm in a meeting with Lowell Milken, he has this great vision for education. And I'm thinking, I'm the one with the PhD in education. Why didn't I think of that? So I love to be around people who are brilliant and have vision and think, I have to up my game here. I'm going to try and keep up. But just like all those other barriers, you have to believe in yourself and have self-confidence that you have something to bring to the table that's important too.
Yeah. Good stuff. Anybody want to jump in? We good? All right, let me move on. We got Dr. Breland here. The role of leadership toward increasing access. That's a heavy duty one. The role of leadership toward increasing access and opportunities for Black and brown students. What are you saying?
So I really think that leaders, first of all, need to have a vision for how they're going to increase access and opportunities for Black and brown students. They also have to understand the historical context. So why is it that we need to even think about increasing access? Because we have a lot of systems operating in society that have historically put barriers in place to limit Black and brown people, period. And until all of those systems are dismantled and we have opened up every gate, if you will, as leaders for equity, we have to be very intentional about ensuring that all of our students have access to what every other student in the country has access to. So that vision then has to turn into a commitment. That commitment has to turn into action. And action looks different depending on where you are. But one of the things that I do, and I think it's important for leaders to do, is to get a sense of what are those barriers. So sometimes you don't know what those barriers are just by looking around. Sometimes you have to talk to the students. So find out from the students. You could survey students. You could survey parents. Get a sense of, you could do focus groups. Get a sense of what those students perceive about the school and about the district. Do they feel that they have access to something as simple as field trips? Something as simple as, after school activities. If there's no after school bus and at 4:00 it's dark outside, are you expecting children who have to walk in the dark, various neighborhoods? Or are you going to provide something as simple as transportation for them? I remember when I was a principal, I had to really, I inherited a staff, and there was a custom that if kids were late for breakfast, that they wouldn't serve them. And to me, that was like horrific, because some children may only get their meals from school. And when I learned that that was going on as the building principal, it was my job to ensure that every child that was hungry ate. So I remember one time as a principal, a teacher contacted me because a student was acting out. The first question was, has that child eaten breakfast today? And the teacher says, I don't know. I said, ask him.
Yeah.
She asked him. He said he hadn't eaten. I said, feed him. I mean, it was very simple to me, but it's like, who can learn on a hungry, empty stomach? Like, if I'm hungry and I have access to food, but if I'm hungry, I'm not going to be any good for you. You know, we have to like pay attention to those little things and create an environment where no child feels that they have to ever come to school and be hungry. Like, we can't always control what goes on beyond those school walls or in the community, although sometimes we can have an impact on the community by opening our doors, you know. And so we have to pay attention. Like, if there are field trips and we are charging a fee for those field trips and some kids can't afford that fee, then we put up a wall and a barrier that some children will never have an opportunity to have access to. If we do things like, say, you have a low grade and so you can't participate in after school activities or sports, you know, what we're saying is now you don't have access to something that potentially could give you an opportunity later on down the road if you develop a skill or a talent. Like, we're not cultivating those skills and the talents that the students have. And so I think it's incumbent upon the leader to look at like every aspect of what's going on in the school life of a child, the lived experiences of these students, find out what, from their vantage point, what we're not doing well, and then fill in those gaps and do whatever it takes to create an opportunity where every child feels like this is where they can thrive, and this is where they can grow, and this is where they're going to have access to everything that they need to be the kinds of young people that we need them to be.
And you said some things there. You know, you said a couple of things that really stood out for me. One was the whole idea of leaving school in the dark with no transportation and walking through, in some cases, tough, dangerous neighborhoods.
Right.
That was why I got suspended, because I refused to allow in a piloted program from the superintendent to allow those kids to leave late. It was an after school program. And I said, I can't keep my kids in the building because it's dark and they got to walk these streets in East Orange. And he said, well, chain the doors. And I said, I and put security on the door. I'm not doing that. And for that reason, I paid a price. I'm so glad to hear you say that. And then you talked about learning, the leadership learning or knowing what those barriers are. And I could be leader in a school where the bubble that I grew up in is so vastly different from the bubble that the children live in presently. So right. I don't even recognize those barriers. They could be as clear as this shirt says clowns, and I don't see it. Because my world is so vastly different. So let me stay with you for a second, Doc. And here you are in that particular school consulting, and that teacher, that leadership is from a different world. They just cannot see it. It's not visible.
Mm-hmm.
What is your message? How are you approaching that?
So we're talking about that they're not being able to see it often means that it's because of their privilege.
Right.
So I'm going to talk about privilege. I'm going to talk about privilege. I'm going to talk about biases, and I'm going to talk about how we have these hidden biases that keep us from often knowing, you know, what we need to know about students. And when we talk about privilege, so people get upset when we talk about privilege.
Yeah.
But the truth is, all of us sitting on this call have privilege because we all have multiple degrees. So that alone gives us privilege. And it'll get us in rooms that other people might not be able to get into. So I recognize that I have privilege when I walk into a room, but I also recognize where I don't have privilege. So I'm a Black woman. So Jane talked a lot about being in rooms as the only woman, sometimes the young woman in the room, and not being seen or not being heard and not having a voice. And so then if I know that about me as a Black woman, I'm going to talk about that, and I'm going to help people understand. So we don't all enjoy the same privileges. And in American society, white, male, Christian are the top three. So if you don't fit in that category, which, Kafele, you've got, male, but you're a Black male. So that's a quote unquote, society could see that as a strike against you.
Right.
You might be a Christian. I practice Christianity, but I'm not a white male, so, that alone. And so I try to help people understand how privilege plays out in the way that we lead and the way that we see the students. And if we have privilege, so I'll be honest, there was a time that I was having a conversation with a colleague of mine when I was working at the state, and I had a good relationship. So that was important. I had a good relationship with her. She was a white woman, and she was saying something, and I can't even remember what she was saying, but I do remember that it was safe for me to say to her, "Your privilege is showing." And when I said that, it arrested her, but she thanked me for showing her that, because she didn't realize where it's almost like privilege blinders. It blocks us from seeing where we can have impact, or where we may not know where we may have bias. And so it was at that point, then she was able to drop privilege and say, okay, let me see the other perspective here. Let me see what else is going on that my privilege was hiding me from being able to see. But it means people have to be honest with themselves and be willing to see what they can't see, and hear what they don't want to hear, and be comfortable being uncomfortable and seeing that discomfort as an opportunity for growth.
Yeah, I love it. I appreciate that. I appreciate it. Anybody else want to jump in there? All right, let me go to Dr. Moreno, and you said, and this one really caught my attention too, promoting collegiality, as some would say collegiality. I tend to say collegiality because my professor back in grad school said collegiality, and that's how I got it. If it had been a different professor and he said collegiality, then I'd be saying collegiality, right? Promoting collegiality among staff. Holla.
So a couple things. I want to dial it back before I address this specific talking point. So going back to our overall topic, like our leadership, effective leadership, non-negotiables, right? Yeah. So first of all, to sit essentially in our roles, I tend to believe and affirm that we need to have a clarity and a vision to lead. We have to be able to promote engagement. We have to remain visible. And going back to my statement earlier, having a finger or a hand on the pulse. And we have to be able to drive change. The only way we can do that is if we come back, dial it back, and build capacity, relationships, and develop those relationships among each other. Like Tonya was saying earlier, when you're a teacher, you're in the classroom and you don't know what's going on next door. But it could be good, bad, ugly, or the best thing since sliced bread. But the only way to get that to work and to know is by building those relationships. So one of the things that I have the opportunity to oversee at Wayne Valley is the master schedule. So I was very, very intentional in my scheduling of science periods to build in, because this is something new, to build in time for teachers to be able to sit and actually meet with like content science teachers. And I essentially let them roll with it, right? I said, I am not going to attend every single meeting. I'm not going to dictate what you talk about. I am not going to micromanage this time, right? Because as leaders, as teachers, all we want is time. We want time to be able to do things.
Mhm.
So in the beginning, they didn't know what they were doing or talking or how to organize. And I said, okay, here's some norms. Let's set some norms for the time and what we're doing. So we set the norms together. Each staff member contributed to that conversation. And it was openness to all viewpoints, not speaking when someone else is talking, active listening. So making sure we're not listening to respond, but we're really listening to understand. And now we're going into the second semester. And when we were talking about, requests and schedules for next year, they said, Kim, if you can keep us doing this again next year, I've learned so much about my content area, my colleagues, and how to do things differently. They're challenging each other. They're helping each other and they're supporting each other. And that's because I've just had this vision that we need to get out of the classrooms and build those relationships among each other. And with my non-negotiable for being an effective leader, it helps drive that change and build capacity, because my kids are going to have some of these people as teachers. And I'm selfish in saying I want the best teachers for my children. And I have that wonderful opportunity to live and work in the same district. And I think I need to take this challenge and drive it home. So the students here will get the best experience as they can.
Love it. Anybody else?
I love that, Kim. I have to also say that when I hear you talking as a vice principal and what you do as a vice principal, I loved earlier what you said in terms of defining the role, because like you, I was not going to be the disciplinarian. The other vice principal had no problem taking on that role, but that was not going to be my role. But I love what I hear you doing because I hear your vision coming through. So it must be that, I think it's the Milken educator in you. You just, you rise as a leader and, you're innovative and you think of these, ways of doing things. And it's not necessarily typical of, people in the vice principal role. You talk like a principal.
Yeah, you do.
Maybe one day.
You
That's
do.
my trajectory. I'm working on it.
You'll go wherever you want to go.
That's
Thanks,
right.
Jane.
It's coming. It's just based on where we are as far as time. I want to do something before we go to the next one. I want folks, because everybody doesn't stay on for the duration, so I want folks to be able to get in contact with you if they want to just reach out to you, and certainly Dr. Breland, if they want to bring her out to do some work. So let me start with the entrepreneur, Dr. Breland. I got to get in touch with you so that you can come out and engage them in some training and all that stuff.
TESO Consulting Group.org. TESO
Consulting
Group.org.
All right. So once again, folks, TESO Consulting Group.org. And then the email address is there. Your social media on the website?
It's on, yes.
Yeah, everything is there.
Platform.
And I might add, she didn't say this, and I did this the last time she was on, but you all know that superstar country western singer by the name of Breland. Well, that's Breland's mother right there, Dr. Tonya Breland, right? So if you got some of them Breland songs on your device, that's Mama. Right?
Yay, Mama.
Go ahead, Dr. Foley. How can they reach you?
My email is jfoley@mff, like milkenfamilyfoundation.org. And if you could put from Principal Kafele's Academy in the subject line, then I'll be sure to read it. And then you can follow me on X at Milken_jfoley.
You're the first person I heard him just say X.
No,
Twitter known as X these days. But yeah,
right.
Yeah. And Dr. Moreno.
So you can follow me on LinkedIn. My name, Dr. Kimberly Moreno, EDD. And if you need to email me or reach out for anything, kimberly.moreno1984@gmail.com.
Now you know you saying Moreno. Right, Tonya? Right.
I picked up on that.
You playing with us, man.
Could be Moreno, but we're not going there.
It's recorded, so we have evidence.
All right, so let's go. We're not leaving, fam. I just wanted to get that information out there. And then my other thing I missed in my intro, I always talk about, shout out the places I've been this week, and recordings. I ain't been to all of them yet, but shout out to Crestwood Elementary in Las Vegas, Fresno Unified School District in California, and Leadership Partners in Houston, man. Shout out to all three. Although at the time of this recording, I've only been to one, right? Would be the other two starting tomorrow. So with that said, Dr. Foley, you said the importance and power of finding a mentor and being a mentor under this topic of leadership effectiveness, non-negotiables. That makes sense to me. Jump on it.
So I'm glad we get to talk about this topic because Principal Kafele is in this one again. So this non-negotiable for effective leadership is to be a mentee and to be a mentor. So you heard the story, what my superintendent said when I asked about my aspirations to be a principal. So after meeting with him, I asked my principal, Vern, who I respected deeply, and he said immediately, yes, but you will need to go to another district first. So my next setback after talking to Vern, which was very encouraging, led me to the mentor of a lifetime. I drove to the local university. I'm going to enroll in courses for principal certification. I'm in my first meeting getting registered. The administrator's looking, at my information, and he says, so I see you're a phys ed teacher. You don't have any education courses. You can come this summer. You can take one class. We'll see how you do. So that pace, that attitude was a little hard for me to swallow. So I got in the car again. Now I'm driving down to Purdue, where I eventually got my PhD. It's a 2-hour drive each way. And I had a meeting with a gentleman I later learned was the guru of educational administration in the whole state at the time and head of the department at Purdue. So I told him, Dr. Nicholson, what I was thinking. He said, I know what you want. You come down this summer. We'll start you out with your first 4 classes and we will get you a job. So I did what he said. And 2 years later, he did exactly what he said he would do. So lesson learned about being a mentor, whether it's with students, people we supervise, colleagues, see people for what they could be, not just who they have been. So I'm going to share the second lesson I learned about being a mentor from Dr. Nicholson in a moment. So what about being a mentee? Okay, so my first year as a principal, no one gave me a mentor. Here's Jane, throw her in the deep end. I'm a pretty good swimmer, but I wanted a lot more than just to keep afloat. So I called Vern every month. We talked. He helped. I learned. The takeaway was to seek out people we respect for the mentors. In my position now, it's an honor that educators call me when they have something they want to discuss. So in the past, I would jump into advice, how I could help. I learned an important lesson about being a mentor and a colleague. It was another epiphany. It was a call with Principal Kafele many years ago. I just started talking, here I am. After the call, I thought, what were you doing? You didn't even listen to what he wanted to discuss. I changed my approach from that day on. Being a mentor, being a colleague is not about making mini me's. It's to be a sounding board to help someone move toward their best self. Now, I listen first. Do not react until I understand the context. Being a better listener took a lot of practice for me. I'm still working on it, but I keep reminding myself, listen to what the other person is saying, not planning what you are going to say. Mm-hmm. So this priceless lesson of being a mentor is from Dr. Nicholson. So when I was working on my doctorate, I had lots and lots of meetings. So you can relate to these types of meetings. The person's checking their email, the phone rings, they're picking it up. Someone comes to the door, they stop, they're talking to them. So I had many meetings with Dr. Nicholson as we talked about my doctoral program. This is what he did. He ignored his phone. He ignored his email. One time his secretary comes to the office with an important message. He said, "I'm talking to Jane." And he looked at me so intently that I knew I had the undivided attention of this amazing human. Just thinking of that is this reminder for any meeting with anyone, including students, even if it's 5 minutes, clear everything and be that mentor that makes the other person feel like they're the only person in the world.
Let me I don't want to say the word push back, but let me take another position on this, an unpopular position. I know this definitively that it's unpopular. Sometimes when I'm in my mentorship role, I already got the data I need. I got it already before I started talking to the individual. And in my mind, in that moment, and I had one of these moments today, in my mind, the way I approach it, I'm getting ready to teach. And that may be some long teaching, right? And when I finish, yeah, I'll hear whatever you want to say. But in that moment, I don't even want to be interrupted, right? I'm in teaching mode. But then in this speaker world, and this will go against everything that Dr. Breland said a few minutes ago about sit and get. There are people, I understand the engagement in terms of presentation, and I make sure that I'm that guy. However, I've learned over these years, there are people sitting in those audiences that do not want to engage with anybody. Because they are into this presentation, they're into this speaker, particularly in a keynote mode, obviously more so than the workshop mode, who they just want to sit back and listen. And that's coming. I'm gonna tell you where that's coming from for me. It's coming from the church, because on Sunday morning, there's outside of call and response, we just as a congregation, we want to sit back and receive that message, that word, if you will, right? So with and then that head coach of the sports team, there's those times when it's this, we ain't talking about nothing. You sit back and I got some teaching I'm getting ready to do, right? So I'm saying that to say this to you, Jane. I remember the conversation. And in my mind, this was me being student. You got age on me and you got experience on me. There's some time when the young head got to just sit back and just receive. It's not everything for, and this again, this just me talking now. This ain't, I know when people watch this, they're gonna be all in the thread saying whatever they're gonna say. But sometimes I just gotta, sometimes folks gotta just sit back and receive from the elder, right? Sometimes the elder don't want to have a dialogue. Like, let me holler at you for a while. Right. And then when I'm finished, then we can have that conversation. Right. So that's kind of where I'm at with that. And it just, again, just to reiterate, to repeat myself, I remember specifically that conversation. And my role in my mind was to sit back and receive. I didn't need to be engaged that day. What you did was appropriate, according to the way I look at the world.
Well, as you said on one of your other one of the other academies, is when people invite you to speak and they want you to do something, you say, "No, this is what I do." So this is what you do, and I want to. It's not a pushback, but I want to add something else about mentor. Within the Milken Network, a few years ago, we started what we called a mentor-mentee program, where veteran Milken educators kind of adopt a match with a new Milken educator for a year, and we called it. And I was a mentor. Every year we were doing that, and the first year I was doing it, I was talking to Tiffany Tynes Curry in Ohio, and I thought, I'm learning so much from her. I hope she's gaining a lot from me. It was one of these relationships where she listened to me, I listened to her. So we renamed the program. We renamed it MFF, Milken Friends Forever. So when you're colleagues like that, it's a chance to always learn from each other. And I think that's really important in a mentor kind of relationship.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I'm with you. I appreciate. Anybody else?
No.
We're going to wrestle here.
No, I love it. I love it. I love it. I love the exchange of ideas, man. Let me go to Dr. Breland. The role of leadership toward addressing disproportionality in special education, gifted, honors, AP, and in discipline. Let me remind the audience out there, the fam, I should say out there, we're talking leadership effectiveness non-negotiables. Right. That's the whole premise to everything you're hearing here. That and I'm standing on everything that I've heard thus far in this conversation, that these are non-negotiables. Right. So continue to listen. Go ahead, Doc.
So, when we talk about who's in our special education programs, who's in our gifted, honors, and AP programs, and who's getting disciplined the most, there are some statistics that are pretty universal across the country. Black and brown children are overrepresented in special education, underrepresented in gifted and honors and AP courses, and overrepresented or over-identified for discipline problems.
Mm-hmm.
That is across the board. And if you don't know what the data says in your own school, then you might be missing out on a whole lot. So it is really important for you to dig deep and understand what those numbers look like. So if you find that there is an overrepresentation of Black and brown students in your special education programs, there's work for you to do. So you need to look at how are these students being identified and why are they being identified. That's not to say that there are some students who don't have special needs that need to be classified, because there absolutely are students who need the services. But there are also some students who are being misjudged and are being identified because of their the color of their skin or the poverty that they might live in, or because of the community that they come from, or because of assumptions that are being made about groups of people, which we call bias.
Yeah.
And it's really critical for you to drill down with your staff and look at how it is that you have this disproportionality. So when we talk about disproportionality, it means this. Look at the number of students that you have in your building, broken down by ethnic or racial group as one demographic marker. And if you have, say, 15% of your population are Black kids, 10% of your population are kids from Latino populations, and you have 33% of your special education population who are Black students, and 27% of your population who are Latino students, that tells you that there's disproportionality. You should have it should look generally the same. So if you got 15% Black kids in your entire population, you should not have more than 15% of your population of special education students being Black. That's what disproportionality is.
Right.
Conversely, when we talk about gifted and honors and AP courses, it's not uncommon for Black and brown students to be underrepresented in honors and AP courses. So now we've got to look at what are the barriers that are in place? How are we identifying students for honors and gifted and AP courses? Are we creating opportunities for them? So there are some districts now that have removed the criteria of teacher recommendation, for example, where they've removed the criteria of they have to have a certain test score. And now districts are saying that any student interested in taking these courses are going to be supported and given the support that they need to be successful in these courses. What we do also know is that a student who gets a C in an AP class is going to be far better off than not having been in that AP course in the first place, because that rigor that they're exposed to is going to increase their academic prowess, just naturally so. If you're in a challenging environment, you're going to rise just simply by being challenged and having that rigor, much more than if you were not in a rigorous environment. So you've got to look at how you're identifying students, and you've got to remove whatever barriers are in place so that all students feel that they have access and they feel like they belong when they get in there. Because we've also interviewed students who have said, well, I know that I could take this class, but none of my friends are there and I don't feel comfortable there because only the white kids or only the Asian kids are in there and I don't feel like I belong in this classroom. So it's incumbent upon the leaders to create an environment where every student feels a sense of belonging, notwithstanding the classroom that they're going into. And when we talk about discipline, that's another huge problem across the country where our Black and brown students are over-identified for discipline. So that, right at the heart of that is bias. How is it that, we have such a large percentage of students who are Black and brown who are getting in trouble? Is it that they're bad? They're worse than other kids? They absolutely are not. And there've been studies that have been done with children as early as preschool who are being suspended and kicked out of preschool at higher rates. Black boys are being kicked out of preschool at higher rates than others. So now what does that do to a child? So if you think about year after year after year, if they have been labeled and identified as the bad kid, it's like that self-fulfilling prophecy. Well, this is how they see me anyway. And so this is what, I'm going to show them, rather than creating an environment that's restorative or an environment that says, I see you, child. And while you may come and you may have some particular challenges or struggles that really are beyond your control, I see you and I'm going to support you. And I'm going to talk to you. When I was a principal, I might have had to send a kid home because they were fighting and they harmed another child, but they might have also walked out of my office having given me a hug before they left. Because they were going to know that I loved and I cared about them. And I wasn't just sending them home because I wanted to send them home, but it was really, I needed them to be removed from a situation where they were causing harm. But at the same time, I also needed them to understand that I see you, I care about you, I want to work with you, and I want to help you. So this isn't something that's continuing to happen. Yeah. But that doesn't happen across schools, in schools across the country.
Right.
You said a whole lot, and I just want to reiterate, folks, fam out there, TESO Consulting.org, TESO Consultinggroup.org, because this is just a snapshot. And, you want the full day session, it's the full day workshop, reach out to Dr. Breland, TESO Consultinggroup.org. Let's go. We getting down to the wire. We getting there. Doctor, I don't even know what to call you now. Dr.
Kim.
Yeah, Kim.
Call me Kim.
I know. Doctor, you've been saying Moreno.
Dr. Kim.
Moreno. Right.
I'll take it.
Developing career pathways for all students, so important. We talk about
just to launch with this, going back to my non-negotiables for effective leadership, it's clarity and vision. And one of the things that I consistently keep in the forefront of my head is the fact that I want my students to succeed. Now, I don't sit in a classroom. I don't have children before me every single day like teachers do. But I have the ability to work and develop programs that will help students succeed. Now, what do I mean by that? I can mean career and technical education pathways. In short, going back to access and equity, which Tonya was talking about earlier, I can ensure that I have all populations represented in these career and technical education programs. I can purposefully and strategically create opportunities for my LLD special ed kids to have access to a robotics class, to a photography class, to biology for allied health, to begin to teach them about the skills and careers that can be available to them. Now, Obviously, we know we're at a stage where not everybody goes to college. That's not the right decision for everyone, and that's okay. But purposefully creating programs and opportunities to advise students of the career pathways there are and what they have to do to get there is strategic planning. And that takes the village of the district to get on board in terms of curriculum planning, in terms of funding, in terms of developing outside network relationships with industry partners, to develop relationships with post-secondary partners, to be able to work towards a potential community college degree while you're still sitting at the high school level, where students feel comfortable in this environment. Providing them access for dual enrollment opportunities where they can earn college credit at a fraction of the cost to give them a leg up, right? Because we're not apples to apples. Every school is different. Every population is different. But by ensuring that we're developing true programs for students to develop those pathways, be it business, be it STEM, be it fine and performing arts, we need to show the kids what the opportunities are for them and help them find their path. So that's a non-negotiable in terms of having that village of the vision of programming and ensuring that there's representation for all of your students in those programs.
Let me ask you this question, Kim. With your background in health services, how advantageous is that for the work you do in general and the young people that you lead specifically?
So that is a wonderful question. My background, I was in the minority program at Montclair State University called the Health Careers Program. And one of my advisors there, Miss Washington, who has since retired, she was a proponent of making sure that all of the students involved in the Health Careers Program had access to, if you didn't want to be a doctor at the end of your 4 years here, what were your options, right? And one of the options that I had a workshop on was education. And I knew I wanted to do that, but I knew I had such an affinity for healthcare. So how was that something that I could blend? So this is where the whole alternate route process comes in. So I graduated with my biology degree, and then I said, you know what? I still want to help people. So I worked in a lab, I did quality control, and I was like, I'm not a lab rat. That's not for me. I want to touch people. I want to talk to people. Obviously, I like to talk. So one of the things I did was I decided to volunteer for my local EMS squad, right? So I decided I was going to ride in an ambulance for 12 hours from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. And then I was going to wake up and I was going to go teach biology the next day. Wow. Right. And that's what I did. And my supervisor saw that in me, that when a program from, it was UMD&J and now it's Rutgers, they had this program promoting careers in allied health science. My supervisor at the time said, Kim, you would be fantastic for that. So again, student of your craft, I'm going to now learn how to teach EMS, right? So now I'm going to take my experience on the ambulance. I'm going to bring it into the classroom, teach my students, and take it a step further and get hired by a hospital and teach EMS instruction. So my kids are getting the same experience they would get. Fast forward, when I was interviewing for leadership opportunities, Passaic had this wonderful idea and vision to create academies for students with career pathways in them. And I said, absolutely, I want to jump in and I want to be at the forefront and I want to help develop and expand that. So that was my goal. And then I had the opportunity, while it was ironic, I was on maternity leave and then I moved to Wayne, and I had the opportunity to interview and check the schools out in Wayne, right? Because I live here, why not? And I got hired as the assistant principal. I oversee science, I oversee technology, I oversee family consumer sciences. My passion is still there in creating these programs. Every student that comes through Wayne Valley should have the access and opportunity to experience a career pathway, to learn. And if it's not even in one of my departments, that's okay, but the program should be there. So I talk about that in the administrative meetings with all of my colleagues. And I say, guys, let's figure out a sequence. Let's figure out a pathway. Let's figure out ways to inform the students, to guide the students. We just recently had our Tech Expo, bringing the middle school students to bringing my high school students to the middle schools and demonstrating, letting them play with the robots, letting them see we have wood shop that we're turning into a manufacturing program. Kids need stuff in all domains of industry. We need carpenters, we need contractors, we need automotive mechanics, we need it all. So why not ensure that our students have access to these programs while they're in high school to make informed decisions? And that's why I'm so adamant. And this is such a passion project for me.
Yeah, I feel that passion. I love it. I love it. We winded down. How you three on time? You good?
Doing all right.
Good, yeah.
All right, good. Let's go. We back up to Jane. Dr. Foley, it says leadership lesson learned during master's, principal certification, or doctoral work. I didn't mean to have that last part there. That was your note to me. But leadership lesson learned during master's, principal certification, or doctoral work. What were you saying?
Oh boy, I was so happy that I get to share my dissertation research. And I know it sounds boring, but there's a non-negotiable in here. My results illuminated an epiphany that transformed my leadership role and my leadership style actually as a principal. So sidebar about working for your doctorate, I have a one-page flyer that's called 10 Easy Steps to Your Doctorate. I can email it to anyone. One of the steps is to select a topic you love because you will be immersed in this topic for a long time. So brief summary before I give you the big reveal. I've always been interested in motivation. I would venture to say that most of you on the Academy are intrinsically motivated. You wouldn't be here if you weren't. A leader has to think broader because we are with others that are both intrinsic and extrinsically motivated. I wanted to know what effective principals did to motivate teachers to improve their practices. So first, there was a survey of dozens of schools, identified first as being successful. There was a lot of mind-numbing data that led to selecting 2 schools for case studies, going to the 2 schools, interviewing everyone. The results were absolutely fascinating. A compelling list of leadership correlates. The teachers described you are probably doing a lot of the things the teachers cited, but here is the big aha. Teachers said change that is systemic throughout a building and sustained over time was simultaneously top down, bottom up. There's the non-negotiable. So it makes sense, right? But how often is it really the strategy? Think of the examples. You have a leadership team, or you have a subcommittee, you have a principal's cabinet, they're working on a reform, the strategic plan, a school project. Great. If they don't communicate and include people outside the committee in each step of decisions, it's just as top down as if it came from the state or district office. So it's a great source of pride that my aha dissertation finding was the foundation of everything we did to open Flint Lake. Now, sidebar again, if you ever get to open a new school, say yes. It is physically exhausting and professionally exhilarating because you get to shape the experience from day one. Many of you know, and someone referenced it earlier, that if you walk into a school, it talks to you. The kind of learning environment is palpable. So the night before our school opened, I said, we don't know what our school is going to say. We're going to write that script, which we did. So with my guidance, we decided everything as a team. The mission statement, school colors, motto, the strategic plan, the goals. We had this 3-step decision-making process. We reviewed the research, what is proven evidence, looked at successful practice, because we had come from 7 different schools, these teachers, what worked in our experience, and then create a plan that never existed before, which we did. I structured the conversations. Yearly, we used our plan to set one big goal that would be the focus. We agreed on the goal. And then my saying was, there's more than one way to get to the mall. How you implement the goal, we agreed. but how you implement has a lot of flexibility. So the outcomes were mind-boggling. It was a total Camelot experience for all of us. And everyone knew we did this top down, bottom up.
Yeah, no, that sounds good. That sounds good. Because of time, I'm just going to keep moving. Dr. Breland.
Thank you, Brody, for letting me share that.
Oh, yeah, no, I appreciate you sharing it. The role of leadership toward leading culturally responsive schools. Could you first tell us what is a culturally responsive school? You muted.
I'm so sorry.
That's all right.
It's our first time.
There's really no one word to describe a culturally responsive school, but a culturally responsive school really is a school that is responsive to the needs of their students by centering and identifying and centering and helping value students and who they are. So who they are ethnically, racially, who they are in terms of, all their other identity markers, and creating an environment for all of those students to be successful. So it looks a lot like some of what we've heard already. And it starts with, as a leader, let me just start with me as the leader and you as the leader. As the leader, you first need to understand who's in your building and have a vision again for how you want this building to look like. So now as a vice principal, you're not in this alone. So this is something that if you're like Kim, my buddy over there, you're going to bring your colleagues along with you. And you're going to collaborate around what it means to lead a culturally responsive school. So it means that every child is seen. And by being seen, I look at the story of Viola Davis. Many of you may have read her memoir. Really, really powerful because she talks about her experiences as a young child who lived in extreme poverty. And she talked about sitting in a classroom with her hand raised because she had to use the bathroom. And, just really trying to get the teacher's attention. The teacher just looks right past her, ignores her. She wets herself. The teacher then embarrasses her, kicks her out of the room, just diminishes her in every way possible. The next day she comes back to school. That puddle of urine is still sitting and dried up in the chair, and the chair is still in the classroom. And I can't even imagine how humiliating that experience was for her as a young child. But what was really obvious was that she was not seen, and the teacher didn't care. And the teacher didn't have a relationship with her. Now, what's redemptive about her story is it was a teacher later on that saw her. And it's that teacher that recognized the talent in her that has led her to the big screen. That, she's now, basically a household name. People know who she is as an actor. But she went through a whole lot of being invisible in spaces. And when we're not culturally responsive, we're basically saying to students, I don't see you. I don't value you, and I'm not centering you. Mm-hmm. And so it's our responsibility as leaders to see our students and to see what they bring into our schools and to help our teachers be able to do that. So if that means that we've got to excavate our biases, then we've got to do that work to do that. If it means that we lead by being the lead learner in that space, then we have to be the leader in learning and help our staff to be lifelong learners. If it means that we have to, go in and kind of interrupt what's happening in a classroom to ensure that every student is getting what they need, we've got to do that. There's a lot of research out there about being culturally responsive and culturally relevant. You can look at the work of Zaretta Hammond, look at the work of Khalifa Muhammad, who talks about culturally responsive leadership. Look at the work of Gloria Ladson Billings or Geneva Gay. These are all pillars in the scholarly world, if you will, who have done this work, who have done a lot of writing and research in this work. And they will help you understand what it means to create that kind of environment that's engaging, that's rigorous, where we're helping our students to be able to analyze their socio-political worlds, and that students have a voice, and that they, are seen. It's our responsibility as leaders to be able to do that. And, there's a lot that we can do to create that kind of an environment for our schools, but we've got to be really intentional about it. We've got to have that vision. We've got to be committed, and we've got to take action.
Beautiful.
Yeah. And for those of you, fam out there, Dr. Gloria Ladson Billings has been here. So go to the AP and New Principals Academy YouTube channel and scroll back. You named another one who was here. You
Loretta Hammond.
Loretta Hammond was here. So scroll back and check that one out. And then the other Dr. Gay, I got to spend a whole day with in Portland a few years back, and it was just like 5 of us in a room for the entire day, just strategizing.
Really, Geneva Gay was my professor at Purdue for courses.
Oh, she was?
Yes, she was.
Okay, yeah, I got all her
She
stuff.
was way ahead of her time, and it was an amazing thing to be in her class for a whole semester 2 times.
Well, it's interesting because Dr. Gay and Dr. Ladson Billings, I think they were both ahead of their time, and there's some others out there as well. And it's like now, they're coming around full circle. One with culturally responsive pedagogy, other one culturally relevant pedagogy, and the other one with culturally responsive practices. But Muhammad Khalifa, same thing. I just haven't reached out to him yet, but he'll be here. He'll be here. Let's go. Kim, you gave me 3, and I knew that, and I just wanted to. I had a question for you that I wanted to throw at you because I knew you gave me the 3. And the question is this: you think about our resumes, right? Or bios, either one. And our resumes and our bios cast us in the most positive light. And my suspension didn't make it into my bio, right? And my termination hearing, it didn't make it into my resume. So none of that's there, but it's part of my story. But here's my question. Here's my statement, and then my question. There's a lot of challenges, obstacles, pressures, demands, frustrations, and even discouragement that is also a part of our lives. But those elements don't make it into the bio, don't make it into the resume. My question to you, is there something that you would want to share here, given what I know about my family that tunes into these broadcasts every week, that could benefit from? Is there something of some nature, a challenge that you overcame, made you better, more effective, stronger, but it didn't make the bio? And don't feel pressured to answer.
I think I need a little bit of time to think about it, because I didn't grow up in an environment that is similar to what I'm giving to my children right now, right? I grew up in a city. I grew up in Patterson. My parents, my dad was college educated. My mom was not. She had a little bit of college, but she did not have a full degree. My dad was first generation. He came here from Puerto Rico when he was in high school. So there was a lot of things. My mom was first generation here from Italy. So I did come from a family of immigrants. My dad instilled, and I want to say both my parents, but particularly my dad instilled a work ethic in me that created this drive that I always have to push myself to what my goal is. So similar to what Jane was saying, that my dad is saying, I can do it, I can do it, I can do it. My dad didn't necessarily say, Kim, you can do it. he showed me through his hard work, working 2 jobs, working as a janitor at a church at night, so I could go to a private school because he didn't want to put me in a public school, just from his experience. And, you know, my mom trying her best to get a job and hold a job down and things like that. And seeing that, I would say it was a challenge in terms of, I know I need to work just as hard to do this and be successful, so my children will have a better opportunity than I had. And I'm not saying I didn't have opportunities, you know, like, because I sit there and I was like, was I poor? Yes, you were, because, you know, your parents were in, you know, working 2 jobs. I went a long span of time without seeing my dad because he was cleaning, you know, churches at night. But I had love, I had motivation, I had parents that showed me that I could be better and strive for better and provide for my family. And I think that drive has been in me. So that was the challenge that I didn't necessarily have to overcome, but I had to see it and be a part of it so I can live through it. And I think that experience allows me to identify with students that come from similar backgrounds and say, look, I understand maybe you have to take care of your sister or brother tonight because your mom or dad is working.
Yeah.
And let me talk to your teacher and say, look, maybe they need to come for extra help another time because you need to get your, you know, your sister or brother, you need to spend time with them tonight, and you don't have that time after school. You need to make it to the bus stop and so on and so forth. So I think it wasn't a challenge, or I didn't view it as a challenge, but it was something that stuck with me that I will never forget and has made me the person I am today.
I love that. You nailed it. You know, that was just something I kind of threw at you, but you great stuff. That's just great information. I appreciate it. Jane gave us one more, so let me just close out with Jane. Yeah, unless we good, Jane, you tell me.
Oh, I would love to tell the little story. It's kind of a full circle from our first question and people how it responded to my first topic.
So this is the last one.
Okay, so
leadership lesson learned during year 1.
It is year 1. So this is kind of follows up on the first discussion. So knowing your professional why is the non-negotiable. Coming to grips with the meaningful life, which I started talking about earlier, that happens over time. So as new and aspiring administrators, the time is now to either have or start to coalesce your purpose. It happened for me year 1. So I mentioned before, I always knew I wanted to be a teacher. I worked hard to be a principal. The significance of that role hit me like a ton of bricks in the first few weeks. So as this new principal, I'm following this beloved longtime principal. Visibility, instructional leadership had many facets. I'm really proud of what happened in the near and long term. The first month, I visited each classroom. I'm introducing myself. I'm reading to the primary students. I'm discussing topics of relevance with intermediate students. And I was telling them they could think of me as their principal. And remember, this is an elementary school. Now, week 3, I'm sitting in my office. The door's open to the hallway. I hear the kindergarten teacher. She's leading the class to the bus. Then there's silence. Then there's a scuffle. A kindergarten student bursts into my office. He's burdened with a book bag. There's loose gym shoes, a library book, papers, a swimsuit, because we were connected to the high school and everyone had swim class. He drops everything on the floor, exasperated. And he says, "Will you help me, Principal?" So we calmly reassemble everything. We walk to the bus. We're having this cheery conversation about his day. I get him on the bus. The bus departs down the road. I froze. That was a moment. "Will you help me, Principal?" Out of the mouths of babes, as you would say. I'm thinking this position is a privilege and a responsibility. That story was so long ago. It still makes me smile and think. It reminds me that we're entrusted with helping others reassemble the chaos, provide constant support, care, guidance, be part of the team to set them on their path. Baruti, he knows his why. I know my why. What is your why story?
Yeah.
Sometimes the why can keep you from turning in the keys, whether it's a classroom or school. We are entrusted with these keys and all that entails. Your why will help you proudly and help you lead proudly and know you're in the right place at the right time and bring joy to you and those around you as you can savor every moment that we are helping others along their path.
Mhm.
I love it. Great stuff. Great way to close this out. Great way to close this out. Let's transition real quick to the impact questions. Either one sentence, one word, whichever is best for you. If you start inserting commas, you're going too long, right? So it's just, here we go. I'm gonna start with Tonya. Is education on the right path for underserved children?
No.
Can true equity occur in America's schools for Black, brown, and other underserved students?
Yes.
Does Dr. Tonya Breland's work contribute to the progress we desperately need?
Absolutely.
If you could do a reset on your life, would your line of work be different or the same?
Probably the same.
Why do you continue to do this work?
Because I'm making a difference.
What fires you up within the work that you do?
When I know I'm making a difference.
That makes sense to me. And what do you absolutely love about this work?
I love the relationships that I build.
Let's go to Jane. What do you dislike about the work you do?
Okay, I dislike ever being around anyone that's an obstacle thinker.
What has been your greatest victory in your work?
I would say opening Flint Lake and everything that we did, and now traveling across the country representing the foundation and meeting and learning from the top talent in education.
I hear that. What was your greatest mistake in your work?
I think it was leaving Flint Lake too soon, before we did everything that we could that was in our potential and our plan.
What has been your greatest challenge in your work?
Keeping up with the expectations that I have for myself.
Are you proud of your first year as an assistant principal?
Well, I wasn't ever an assistant principal, so I'll take that into the principal. And yes, I was proud of that first year.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Who inspires you in your work?
Okay, so yes, my father, because of his integrity and his work ethic, and Lowell Milken for his vision and his leadership in education.
Good stuff. Kim, what are you reading right now? Book, blog, article, even tweet, anything?
Right now, I have Lead Like a Pirate on my Audible right now.
That's Beth Huff, right?
Yeah.
My buddy, she's been on here too. Everybody been on here. What book do you recommend for our viewers this afternoon?
The Assistant Principal Identity.
Oh man, thank you. It needs a push.
Not for nothing, Baruti, your books are amazing. I know that's too long, but your books are all amazing and they're thought-provoking. So I appreciate you as an author.
I appreciate you back. What do you want to accomplish that you haven't accomplished yet?
I would love to write my own book. I've written a chapter, I've written an article. I would like to write my own book.
There you go. Make it happen. Are you satisfied with where you are professionally right now?
Yes, because my work's not done here.
What could you say to a viewer out there who continues to face closed doors?
Knock them down.
What can you
Figure out a way.
What can you say to a viewer out there who's lost their fire?
Go back to your why.
Go back to your why. If Dr. Kimberly Moreno was a word in a dictionary, what would be your definition?
A powerful, motivational visionary.
Love it. If Dr. Jane Foley was a word in a dictionary, what would be your definition?
Okay, I hope it's empowerment of others and an example of zest.
Love it. And lastly, if Dr. Tonya Breland was a word in a dictionary, what would be your definition?
Make it happen.
Make it happen. Love all three of them. Appreciate y'all. Hey, folks out there in the AP and New Principals Academy world, let us know what you think. If today's session resonated with you, if it inspired you, if it added value to your work, to your practice, if you feel it'll benefit what you do, then give us those emojis, as I'm sure that many of you already started, but give us those emojis. Just let them fly, let them fly. That's the way that we applaud our guests every Saturday. And then I get my emoji, this big Louisville slugger, and since I'm wearing my Henry Aaron Negro Leagues jersey, it's Hank Aaron at the plate. He hit a grand, each of you hit a grand slam every time. So I don't know what the math is, but that's a whole lot of runs coming in, right? I need to compute that one day so I can stop saying every week I don't know what the math is. When it's 3 or 4 folks that hit 4 runs each and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, I appreciate y'all. You know, this was phenomenal. It exceeded my expectations. This was really good stuff, solid information. Folks, let them know how to get back in touch with you. Let me start with Tonya on that one, Dr. Breland. How do they reach you so they can bring you in?
TSOconsultinggroup.org.
Right, y'all see that? TSO Consulting Group.
I can't see.
All the social media is on the website. So if you just want to ask a question or talk to it, just go to tesoconsultinggroup.org. Let me go over to Dr. Kimberly Moreno. How do they get in touch with you? How do they?
You can find me on LinkedIn. My name, Dr. Kimberly Moreno, EDD. And you can find me on Gmail, kimberly.moreno1984@gmail.com.
Good stuff. And Dr. Jane Foley, how do they get in touch with you or read your tweets or whatever?
So I'm Jay Foley at MFF, like MilkenFamilyFoundation.org, and on X, Twitter, it's going to be Milken_Jay Foley.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Look, let me close this out. Any parting words anybody want to share? You good?
Thank you for having us.
Yes, thank you so much for everything you do for everyone in the academy.
I appreciate you. Let me close this out. Y'all stay there even when I go off, just so we can close out. But folks, appreciate you being here for week 196. Glad you're here. I'll be back live next week for sure. For week number 197. And I got these guests. You may recall about 3 weeks ago, I had one of y'all turn your volume down. I don't know which one because I'm hearing the echo of me. All right. I had 2 of my teachers from my first school, Sojourner Truth, join me, Dr. Deetria Smith and soon to be Dr. Hubert Chase. Well, I got 3 more I decided I'm going to bring on here. And those 2 they're both principals now. They were teachers with me. Now I'm bringing 3 more who are also administrators, Dr. Danella Bailey, Judith Stoddard, and Wayne Stackhouse. I should say Pastor Wayne Stackhouse, but he's an assistant principal in Newark. So I'm bringing 3 more who worked with me as teachers in my school, and it's going to be an exciting conversation because I got some things I want to ask them, and I want them to ask me a few things, and maybe they can ask some things I've never talked about because they know me that well, as being these young teachers working for this young principal back in '99, right? So that'll be next week. Tell somebody, let them know. 10:55 next Saturday morning. Every Saturday morning, Facebook Live, Sean Hurd at 10 o'clock. Create and Educate with Dr. Sheikah Houston, Tammy Taylor, 10:30. Unlock the Middle with Dean Packard and Josh Tovar, 7 o'clock on Sunday night. That's all Facebook Live. You know my joints. I'm going to go real quick. The Assistant Principal 50, the Aspiring Principal 50, the Assistant Principal Identity is, no, the Principal 50, and is my school a better school because I lead it. You can go to Amazon, keep me in that top 100. Go to Amazon and get it. And then you'll see the teacher books because they're necessary too, but I just don't have the time to promote them. But when you put Baruti Kafele and Amazon, everything will show up. Even my books that are not in print will show up. But apparently, folks are getting my out of print books on eBay and some other places that I didn't know they were there because someone just posted my first book online the other day. So you can get them. Visit principalkafele.com for my additional resources. Subscribe to the AP and New Principals Academy YouTube channel. We're at 20,100. I think it's getting ready to turn any day now. So keep it coming. Like and follow the Facebook page, AP and New Principals Academy Facebook page. That's when I write an essay or a commentary on Sunday mornings, not later than 10 o'clock. And then finally, your diet. Make sure that you're doing right as far as what you intake. Your exercise, get it done. You know, a lot of days, there's no day I want to exercise. It doesn't exist. There's no day that I say I can't wait to get to the treadmill. It does not exist. But I'm probably on that treadmill more than most because I just want to extend my life as long as it's going to be, that I have control over it. And then finally, your COVID-19 and other viruses and diseases out there, precautions. Make sure that you are taking care of yourself. That matters. Other than that, have a great week. Have an extraordinary week. Have your best week yet. Peace. Peace. Thumbs up, cock that fist back, count the 3, 1, 2, 3, bam! You know how we do, y'all. I'll see y'all next Saturday.